across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on the app, on your mobile. The home of common sense. This is...
Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and dazzling debate. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000 or WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. That's 0344 499 1000. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me, as I say, on the same number. Promise to play it out. It's Thursday, July the 17th. Here's what's coming up. This just in. Old Diane Abbott has just been suspended again by Labour after standing by her letter to the Observer in which she stated that racism against Jews isn't as bad as racism against people of colour. They kicked her out once before, and in the end she issued some kind of grovelling apology. Now she said she's got no regrets about that letter, which is frankly, you know, just disgracefully anti-Semitic. It's as simple as that. So Labour have thrown her out again. I want to ask you this question, folks. Is this woman just a dyed-in-the-wool anti-Semite? Does he just hate Jews? 0344 499 1000. She used to go out with Jeremy Corbyn. Just saying. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, where is Grant Shapps, the former Defence Secretary responsible for the grotesque prolonging of the government's super injunction to keep secret the appalling data breach and subsequent airlift of thousands of Afghanis to Britain to save them from being killed by the Taliban, many of whom are now repaying our generosity by launching a £1 billion lawsuit demanding compensation for the Ministry of Defence bungle that leaked their details in the first place. That's how to say thank you, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. Isn't there some kind of way, legally, we can tell them to just do one? If you don't like it, go back to Afghanistan. Don't come here and sue us. Now, that said, how many of them actually deserve to be here, as Richard Tice was just saying, and I was saying all of last night. We're told 100,000 Afghanis helped the Brits and the Americans during the Afghani war. What a load of crap. No way. Most of these people, many of them here now living on our welfare, in our social housing, didn't help the Brits at all. They're just opportunists, chancers who lied and pretended. Why did we let them all in? We owe a debt of responsibility to those who genuinely helped us. I phoned a friend of mine who was an officer in the Afghanistan war. I said, 100,000? Does that ring any bells? He said, look, when I was there, he said he was there for 4 years. He said, I think I came into contact with about 100 interpreters. This is all wrong. There are too many of them have been let in. This is a government bungle, and that, no doubt, is why the Tories are imploding, hurling grenades at each other, saying it wasn't me, Gov, it was you, etc., etc. Also, tonight, the stunningly ignorant BBC news chief who thought that some members of Hamas were not terrorists. You know, those in the government, officials, that kind of thing. She thought there was a military arm of Hamas and they're terrorists. And then there's the sort of the civilian arm, you know, the people who are in government, ministers and all that, who aren't terrorists. That's what she actually thought. Now, she has been rewarded for her know-nothing uselessness with a huge pay rise. So I'm asking you, is Dozy Deborah Turners, who doesn't know how Gaza is governed, really worth £431,000 a year? What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Plus, Labour gives 16 and 17-year-olds the right to vote because Keir and his out-of-touch crew think they're all left-wing. But will this clear manipulation of British democracy rebound on our gormless government? Are, in fact, a fair few teens pretty far right these days. I think you'll find they are. 0344 499 1000. Plus the hilarious video showcasing London Mayor Sadiq Khan's ridiculous refusal to rule out concreting over Hyde Park, Green Park and Kew Gardens. What's wrong with this weird little pipsqueak? 0344 499 1000. I mean, he's ruining this city. He's absolutely ruining it. Now he wants to turn Green Park into high-rise council flats or something. Unbelievable. Also tonight, the bizarre existence behind bars of Southport killer Axel Rudakabana. That for many begs the question, what is the point? What really is the point of keeping this animal alive? 0344 499 1000. And finally, Kinsey Schofield on Prince Harry's solo trip to Africa to follow in the footsteps of his mother Diana, visiting a landmine clearing charity. All very worthy, I'm sure. But is the dim Duke just reminding us of his money-spinning connection to Di? Too cynical? I don't know. Either way, what's the point of this non-royal tour? What does he think he's achieving? Very strange. 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday night together. And before we go on, we're going to keep you posted. You remember last night, well, actually for the last few days, we've been covering the rising unrest in Epping, a pretty town to the north of London, little Essex town, but it's sort of North Londony, and it's right next to Epping Forest, and in the middle of it they've got this Bell Hotel. Used to be a nice little local hotel. It's now of course full of there we're looking at it now full of asylum seekers, more than 100. One of them came here on June the 29th and within 8 days was charged with sexual assaults on 3 local women, sexual assaults he allegedly carried out in 2 days of horror. He denies these charges. He's already appeared in Colchester Magistrates Court. But as you can see now, this is live. This is Epping. And there were demonstrations, angry demonstrations all over the weekend. And here we are right now. You can see this is big, folks. So we'll keep you posted about exactly what's going on up there. But I sense the mood is dark up there. And, you know, we don't want to see trouble. I don't condone trouble or violence, but you can understand why that community in a small town is extremely agitated, extremely worried. Let me know what you think about that, but we will keep you posted. 0344 499 1000. Now, for the next hour, it's Thursday, always my favourite day, one of my favourite days anyway, because I am joined by Senior Fellow from the New Culture Forum, Philip Kilsey. Welcome, Philip.
Hi, Kev. It's great to be with you again.
Well, you join us on a very newsy day. It's been a very, very newsy week. And as I say, we may dip into what's happening in Epping as we proceed. But first of all, let's get into the big story, I was going to say of the week. This is the big story of the century, to be honest with you. Extraordinary. I suppose the question we could ask in terms of this is the Afghani airlift that we weren't allowed to know about, the extraordinary manoeuvre by the government to take out a super injunction to keep secret from the people who elected them, this bung up, this balls up by a Ministry of Defence official. It was actually a military person, apparently, who pressed the wrong button, shared details of 100,000 Afghanis who were supposed to have helped us during the Afghanistan war, putting them at risk from the Taliban, of course. This triggered secret airlifts that have been going on for 2 years. We think 18,500 so far. There may be 4,000 or so still to come. They've arrived. We've put them into sort of temporary housing, but they're now being filtered into social housing, leaping to the top of the social and council housing queue over Brits who've been waiting for years. That's good, isn't it? Also, they're all getting welfare for life. Benefits for life. They have been told that if you want to work, you're very welcome to, but you don't have to. So they can have the life of Riley for the rest of their existence here, living in social housing, which they got by being propelled to the top of the queue, while waiting Brits continue to wait. Now, Philip, I believe, said this last night, I believe utterly that we had a responsibility, a duty
of care
to the people who genuinely helped us. Now, I've heard that was in the hundreds, and now I've heard more generous estimations of perhaps 4,000 people who are interpreters, people who work for the British, people who even fought with the British, Afghanis who fought with the British. So these people, yes, we owe them a duty of care. We owe them what we've done. We owe them to bring them to this country and save their lives. 100,000? Where did they get that number from? And why have we brought in 18,500 so far? Apparently with plans to go up to 23,900. This is full of this list that we've brought to this country, as Richard Tice was saying, and I said last night, it is full of people who are just chancers. They've lied their way onto this list, and we've just gone, oh, you can all come. Government isn't that simple. Ben Wallace, Grant Shapps, the Ministry of Defence, the Defence Secretaries then, they should have got to grips with this and said, right, well, who genuinely deserves our help, because we can't have all of these. Instead, they took the easy route and said every single one of them can come. This is an abrogation of responsibility by that government.
Oh, it is. It really is. And bearing in mind that Rishi Sunak was talking about stopping the boats. My God, we know about Keir Starmer talking about stopping the boats. Yeah. And here we are. They're not stopping the planes, are they? No. So we're what are we talking here? £7-8 billion this is going to cost? Nobody knows, do they? Because we don't know how many people are here. Yeah. This has been going on for years, and it's the hypocrisy that I think will really get people. But also people are scared about this. If there are hundreds of thousands, 100,000 people here who really shouldn't be here, who actually had nothing to do with helping the British forces in Afghanistan, who are from a culture that is absolutely incompatible with British culture, there is real danger here. Yeah. You know, again, it's that same narrative that we talk about in the news so often. It's hypocrisy, ineptitude and danger. All of those things go together, and it's always the British people, and it's always very definitely women and children who suffer here. Yeah,
and there's a lot of lies flying around right now. We're being told each and every one of these Afghanis who's been granted asylum in Britain, they have been thoroughly vetted. Had they? Hell. No. What we do know is among them is a small number of sex offenders who had previously applied, and were rejected because they're sex offenders, but because now they're on the Taliban kill list, as it's being dubbed, they've been allowed to come. So we've literally knowingly imported some sex offenders. And this is another example of foreigners being prioritised over indigenous British citizens.
Yeah, it echoes some of the stories that the two of us have talked about in the past. I'm thinking about the Pakistani paedophile who was entitled to a family life. I'm thinking about the chicken nuggets case. All of those things. It's ridiculous excuses, and they seem to be obsessed with bringing as many people into the country and putting as many people at risk as they possibly can. Now there are some difficult aspects to this story. The government does need to be an element of secrecy in government, because secrecy and security go hand in hand, but not via the courts. Not via super injunctions. Yeah. This is Ryan Giggs territory, isn't it? This is celebrities keeping their dirty little
celebrity
secrets.
Philandering. Yeah. That's what these are about. You know, it's about actors and pop stars who don't want you to know that they've been screwing around behind their partner's back. That's what these are usually used for. And the government, I'm calling, I've done this all week, I'm calling for a law to stop governments going to the courts to keep secrets from the people who elected them. Now, as you say, part of the process of government has to be secret, but that must rest with the responsibility of cabinet ministers and people on committees. They have to be trusted. They can't go to the courts. No. I kicked off by saying, where is Grant Shapps? Grant Shapps Ben Wallace got the original super injunction out. He said yesterday or the day, I have no regrets about whether lives are at risk. Well, you should have regrets because this was incompetent. Obviously, massive mistake, human error. It does happen sometimes. Some idiot pressed the wrong button and all these details were shared. Now, this list, 100,000, to go back to the quantity and the numbers involved, this list was everyone who had applied to come and live here, to please get me out of Afghanistan, please can I be one of your special people.
That's literally anybody.
It's everyone who applied.
Yeah.
Most of them didn't help the Brits at all, and yet Ben Wallace says, oh no, they can all come. Every single one of them. Now, Ben Wallace took out a super injunction, which he shouldn't have done, but I don't think, in fairness to Mr Wallace, he envisaged it would last long. He was superseded by Grant Shapps, the little weirdo, and so many of these people in politics are little weirdos, aren't they? Sadiq Khan, there was little blokes with Napoleon syndrome.
Complex, yeah.
Anyway, Grant Shapps, he's the one, he aggressively kept going to court to continue it, and every time, and all these judges, I was reading about it yesterday, all these judges in these, when you talk about behind closed doors, these hearings were literally held behind closed doors that were locked. So no one was allowed to get anywhere near it. Very, very secret. And Grant Shapps kept saying, extend, extend, extend. The people can't know about this. Judges, successive judges said, look, you're talking about £7 billion worth of public expenditure. You're talking about importing thousands and thousands of foreigners into this country. The people have a right to know. And then Shapps would say, but if you lift that super injunction, people will die. So every judge went, well, OK then. But the judges were very, very unhappy about it. So Shapps is the villain of this story. No one can find him.
Well, to be fair, if I was Grant Shapps, I'd be holidaying in the Maldives as well at this point. But, I mean, this is the biggest data breach in political history. Yeah. This is how huge it is. It's incredible. Yes. It's absolutely enormous. And what is Grant Shapps' response? Of course, it's to save himself, his career and his own backside. That's essentially what it is.
Yeah, and the entire government, this is what this was about. They say we took out the super injunction to protect lives. I don't believe it for a second. No. They took out the super injunction to keep from the people, as you say, the most massive, egregious data breach leak of all time. Yeah. They didn't want us to know about it. That's why they took the super injunction out. It wasn't about saving Afghan lives. This was about saving the reputation of the government, and Grant Shapps kept it going, and remarkably, scandalously, it carried on for 2 bloody years.
For 2 years. I mean, so I think he took over 2 days after this had happened. And you've got to ask yourself, I think we've talked about this, and you do have to ask yourself, what else is going on? If this has taken 2 years to come out, my God, what else are they hiding?
Well, I want to just quickly, I want to discuss this because there was a phrase going around over the last couple of days which sent a shiver down my spine. It was this phrase: "This is the first and longest government injunction ever." Think about that. So. That implies there's more than one. Are there other government super injunctions out there? And if so, we better be told really quickly. And I'm calling on the government, if there are any out there, you get rid of them now. You can't govern the country like this.
No, you can't, because it's fundamentally undemocratic. And that word first there really does send a shiver down your
longest.
Spine. First and longest. So how many more after that?
Did they develop the habit of using super injunctions to spare their own blushes? It could well be, folks.
Because they see their work. I mean, this is one thing that, we're talking about the Conservative Party here, but Starmer is implicated as well, because he knew when he came into office, when he first became the Prime Minister, that this was happening. Okay, he knew. He must have done. This is the biggest thing.
Well, no, he was told. In fairness, a lot of people say, "Oh, he must have known before." He might have done, but his story or Labour's story as he was told the day he became Prime Minister. But fair enough, fair enough.
Yeah. But it's only just coming out now.
Next question, why did you carry on with the super injunction for a year then? Unbelievable.
And why have you talked about stopping the boats? Why have you talked about immigration? Why have you kind of imitated Reform's policy right down the line? Why have you done that when you've got all of these dirty, great big secrets in the closet? You've done that because you want votes. You've done that because you're in trouble, you're losing. That's the only reason why. So it really does make you think that the Conservative Party and the Labour Party really are the uni party. They are just one and the same thing, with Labour being slightly worse than the other one.
Just tell you a quick story. By the way, folks, give me a call. Let me know what you think about this. You know, are you worried that there are, because I am, and I think Philip is as well, are there other government super injunctions out there keeping terrible secrets from us, the electorate? This is, what we're talking about here is a government elected by the people going to court to keep secrets from the people who elected them. That cannot be allowed to continue. This must not be a system of government in this country. Keeping this kind of secret from the people is the sort of thing they do in North Korea and Russia and China and Myanmar, and we must not go down. I'm just astonished that the Tory cabinet and this Labour cabinet as well didn't see the problems here. And finally, I'll just tell a little story. You'll like this. Tories so left out in this story, the current Tories, of course. So Kemi Badenoch, in March, she put this out. She thought this was a really good excuse. She got her spokesman to say this. Was offered a briefing on the super injunction. She was offered it, so come to the, and she didn't go. She didn't accept, and she got a spokesman to say, well, she didn't go because the thing was the invitation wasn't marked urgent. There's one of these people. They're useless, folks. They're useless.
You might say it doesn't need to be marked urgent.
But she, I mean, apart from the hilarity of that, is she thought it was a good excuse. Oh, well, you see, the thing is, it wasn't marked urgent. So what? Oh, well, Kemi, that explains it. Oh my God, these people. Let's go to break and discuss how these Afghanis have repaid our generosity. They're going to sue Britain for £1 billion. Thanks very much. That next. Stay tuned.
There's always been support across this House for the United Kingdom fulfilling our obligations to Afghans who served alongside British forces. We warned in opposition about Conservative management of this policy, and yesterday the Defence Secretary set out the full extent of the failings that we inherited. A major data breach, a super injunction, a secret route that has already cost hundreds of millions of pounds. Ministers who served under the party opposite have serious questions to answer.
Talk across the UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kilsley, and we are going through the astonishing news schedule today. As I said before the break, Philip, how are at least 900 of these Afghani migrants whose lives we saved with this scandalous secret airlift, how are they repaying this nation's generosity? They're suing us. They're going to they're launching a legal action to sue Britain for £1 billion compensation for leaking the Taliban kill list, as they're calling it. These people, as I said earlier, they applied to be brought here. The actual leak of the list actually speeded up the process. So they got what they wanted. They've come here, and I know what's happened here. We've got some ambulance-chasing Chancellor lawyers have got their claws into the Afghani community, and they've said there's money in this for you. Let us sue the government. So we're now being, apart from the fact we've already spent £7 billion on this, folks, we're now being sued for £1 billion by the Afghani, or certain sections of this new Afghani community of ours. And I bet we lose the case.
Of course we'll lose the case, because we're an absurd society.
Nation.
We're an absurd nation, aren't we? And they know it. It's like, you know, we're there to be taken. That's the problem. You know, we're just there to be taken. They know it. They're not stupid. They come here and everything's free, and we're here wringing our hands for what? I don't know. We're wringing our hands, and it just feels as though all of this stuff is connected. It just feels as though this country is a powder keg at the moment.
It really is a powder. That's a perfect link, because in a little while we're going to go back to Epping, talking of powder kegs. I mean, as I said in my opening monologue, you know, or earlier on in the show, that we know that some of these Afghanis who were brought to Britain were sex offenders, or are sex offenders. Meanwhile, I'll guarantee you, they've all been fully vetted. Have they? Hell. There will be thousands of our new Afghani residents who we know nothing about. I'll guarantee you that, just like the asylum seekers. I mean, why would we be so careful about the Afghanis, where week in, week out, we let thousands of asylum seekers or unknown foreigners who cross the channel illegally, we just let them into the country and put them in a hotel about whom we know nothing, and some of them turn out to be sex offenders.
Actually, the only thing we know about them is that some of them are sex offenders. That's the key thing. So, you know, as you were just saying that then, what was going through my mind, because we've talked about it before, was the Pakistani rape gang scandal. And what will happen, you know, at some point in the future, my guess is we'll be talking about some of these people who are doing exactly the same thing. You know, that potential to put people in danger, the potential to break law, the utter chaos that we have in our cities, you can put it down to this kind of stuff. Because this isn't on its own. This doesn't stand on its own. This is just part of all the other nonsense that's being foisted upon us. And if you walk through, I just say this all the time, don't I? But if you walk through any city, you see people hanging around, you see young men who don't work, and it is these people, you know, and it's exactly the same thing. We've, what, 100,000 here? Of course they didn't, you know, they didn't all contribute to the war effort. Of course not.
As I said last night, you know, government is a difficult process. It's hard to be in government. To be a major cabinet minister, secretary is even harder. You know, Ben Wallace, Grant Shapps, the entire Tory cabinet, and the current Labour cabinet, it's not that easy. You can't just be kind to 100,000 people. Oh, you can all come. What they should have done is vet these people, work out the people who really did help us, and by all means bring them to Britain. They deserve it. But the rest of them, they're just chances. I had a call last night from a lady, and her sister worked as a nurse for the RAF, and she was involved in these airlifts. And she said that her sister said that while the planes were sort of taxiing or waiting on the runway in It was actually in Pakistan. It's an extraordinary operation, by the way, folks. These people were secreted by road out of Pakistan by covert British forces, I assume somewhere across the Khyber Pass, somewhere like that, into Pakistan, and then we fly them in these unmarked jets to Brize Norton and RAF bases here. But anyway, she said that while in the plane, while the planes were waiting to take off, they were like local taxi drivers just running at the planes and jumping on, and the people on the planes going, "Oh, what the hell? Go on then! Oh, go on then! You know, you go to Britain for the rest of it. Go on! Oh, God.
It's essentially like our
you
borders.
cheeky so and so, you cheeky thing."
It's like Kent. It's like Dover. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, with as you said before, Kev, you expect this from the Labour Party because you expect be kind student politics. But I'm quite naive still about the Conservative Party, and I'm quite shocked. It's ridiculous that I should say this after all this time, but I'm quite shocked that the Conservative Party would just do this. But I'm saying that after Boris Wave, I'm saying that after they presided over the biggest immigration we've ever known. Of course, it's a silly thing to say.
Net zero.
Yeah,
don't forget, Boris was upset. You're right, but this be kind thing, and I don't want to be unkind, folks, but this be kind thing has infested the authorities, all of British life. It's the predominant kind of driving force of policies. So Ben Wallace, Grant Shapps, all that, oh, well, you know, lives are at stake, lives are at stake. Well, you know, I think British democracy, the principles of our democracy are very, very important. You ignored that. You prioritised the needs and the wants and the desires of foreigners over the needs and the wants and desires of the people who live here because you want to be kind. Well, you know, this has got to stop. We've got to start governing this country seriously. That's not serious politics. Meanwhile, if anyone's seen him, anyone seen Grant Shapps? Let me know if you've seen him. He might be sort of running around. He might be hiding behind a tree somewhere.
I think you're going to have to shout louder than that.
He's a funny little guy, isn't he? I mean, he's in big trouble. So what's he done? He's gone into hiding or he's run away or something. This is a guy whose political career, cabinet career, was distinguished not by the quality of his jobs, but by the quantity.
By the quantity, which is always a bad sign.
Yeah, I think he did pretty much every cabinet job. Wasn't he Home Secretary for about 20 minutes at some point?
I mean, you know, for me, he's one of the faces of the modern Conservative Party, and by definition, it really does feel that the Conservative Party is finished now. I can't think of any future for them. What you were just saying before about Kemi Badenoch, we're laughing about it because it's stupid and it's absurd, but they're stupid and absurd. You know, what can they offer?
I reckon that this entire saga, we must go to break in a second, but I reckon this entire saga, I think with honourable exceptions, but it highlights the dreadfully low standard of the people in the House of Commons.
Yeah, it really does.
Politicians generally. Those people, 650 of them, as I say, I certainly don't want to impugn many of the decent ones, but there are so many absolute abject morons in that House. The quality of our politicians has plummeted. Where are the men and women of stature? They're nowhere to be seen, are they? Let me know what you think about all this. 03444991000. When we come back, we'll have a look at what's going on in Epping. It is building up there, and that could be a snapshot of Britain over the coming months of the summer, because more and more people, particularly with this Afghani news, are worried, as Philip said earlier, that this nation is turning into a powder keg. People have had enough, and that could spell trouble. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to talk about Diane Abbott, who's been kicked out of the Labour Party again. I think it's her hobby, getting thrown out of the Labour Party. She's actually been suspended, but you remember she was suspended before for a revolting letter she wrote to the Observer. Well, she's now saying she's got no regrets about it. We'll tell you what the letter was. I'll remind you of it and chat about Diane in just a second. But let's go back to Epping, where, as I say, I hesitate to say trouble is brewing, but there is a building demonstration there. I think we've got some footage. Now, this follows on. There we are. So there's quite a crowd there, Philip. Quite a crowd. That is a big crowd. What happened was at the weekend there was similar angry protests. This is a local community rising up in fury against their local asylum seeker hotel. It's called the Bell Hotel. It's got about 100 asylum seekers in it. In other words, loads of young men. We say usually at this point of a military age, but shall we say of sexually active age. Yeah. They're not allowed to work, so it's a recipe for trouble. The devil will make work for idle hands to do. You know what they say. And the problem is, you've got to sign there, protect our kids. The problem in particular in Epping, as we look at these quite worrying pictures, is that among these 100 asylum seekers was a guy came in from Ethiopia on June the 29th, and within 8 days he was charged with 3 sexual assaults on local women. These alleged sexual assaults were said to have unfolded in 2 days of horror. He's denying these offences, these charges. He, as I say, he was in Colchester Magistrates Court towards the end of last week, I believe. So he denies the charges. However, this kind of narrative, when people start saying, hang on, there's one of these guys just being charged with sex assault, 3 of our local women have been sexually assaulted. This is incendiary. Yeah. Local communities they won't put up with it.
No, they won't. And I'm just looking at the footage now, which is extraordinary actually. Lots of Union flags, lots of flags of St George there as well, interestingly enough. But I'm reminded of the footage from a few weeks ago from Northern Ireland, which was a very similar, which was a very similar situation, wasn't it? And I'm looking at this, and I'm projecting in right across the summer. If we've got really hot weather, and there's lots of unrest, and there are people similar things will happen, as they will do. We will just have this kind of continual civil unrest right through the summer. And I think that's kind of what we're going towards in this country, okay? Because people are so unhappy, people are frightened, and people are angry, and that's a very dangerous combination.
And I don't know if you spotted that story that on October the 7th ministers were briefed that the last summer's riots were worse in areas where the majority of these Afghani migrants had been billeted. Yeah. So what happened in some of these towns and cities, quite a few of them, was the locals looked around and said, hang on, where have all these foreigners come from? And riots ensue. So the Afghani airlift was directly linked to some of those riots quite a few of them, the majority of those riots last summer. So there may be trouble ahead, folks. The government fears, and so do the police, that there may be quite a few riots in the summer months still to come. We hope there won't be. But you've got to call it like it is. Let's quickly move on. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the night, of course, folks. But at the moment, let's talk about Diane Abbott, who has today yet again been suspended by the Labour Party. As I say, I think it's her hobby, but it is for the same reason as last time. She wrote a letter, was it a couple of years ago now, I think, to the Observer, saying that that racism against Jewish people is nowhere near as bad as racism against black people, people of colour. That, folks, is just flat out anti-Semitic. This is what she wrote. Although white people with points of difference encounter prejudice, she means white people with points of difference, she means Jewish people. Although white people with points of difference encounter prejudice, they have not been subjected to the same racism as black people. It is true that many types of white people with points of difference, such as redheads, can experience this prejudice, but they are not. They are not all their lives subjected to racism. In pre-civil rights America, Irish people, Jewish people, and travellers were not required to sit at the back of the bus. In apartheid South Africa, these groups were allowed to vote, and at the height of slavery, there were no white-seeming people manacled to slave ships. So what she's saying there is the prejudice and the racism suffered by Jewish people. Not worth thinking about. I mean, you've got to be black to really suffer racism. Anti-Semitism, there's nothing. Well, she got kicked out of the Labour Party, or the Parliamentary Labour Party, and suspended, but eventually kind of delivered some kind of apology. Anyway, now she's giving another interview saying she doesn't regret it. She stands by every word, so they've kicked her out again.
Yeah, well, it's a badge of honour, isn't it, for the hard left to be kicked out for anti-Semitism? But, I mean, it's just so historically illiterate as well. I mean, anti-Semitism is the oldest prejudice in the world. And, you know, you can go right back to the beginning of Judaism, but you can go right back to kind of last week, and you could say that in this country the middle classes have made anti-Semitism completely acceptable.
Yeah.
And anybody who works in kind of professions knows that to be the case. I mean, the thing with the hard left is, you know, they are anti-Western, they are anti-capitalist, and all of those things come together for them with Israel and Jews. And Jews for the hard left are too white, and unfortunately Jews for the hard right are not white enough, you know.
And I think the modern anti-Semitism is often linked, or due to the close links between Israel and the Middle East and America. America, of course, being the great devil beast for left-wingers, and Israel being close to America they don't like. And you're exactly right. Somehow or other, in the polite bien-pensant circles, North London, the Guardian readers, all over the country, it's okay to be anti-Semitic. You can hate Jews. That's good. That's what they think. I was in a restaurant the other day, sitting outside in Primrose Hill, very nice area of North London, where, by the way, quite a few Jewish people live, it's near where I live. And this guy just walks along the road. He's got a T-shirt on going, F Israel. Yeah. And people are going, yay!
Yeah. Well, I mean, we saw it on the BBC, didn't we? Which we might talk about in a minute. But with Bob Villan, you know, and death to the idea.
Yeah, I got a new one. Death to the liberal left. How about that one? You like that one?
That's a good one.
If Bob Villan had shouted death to the Muslim church, he'd have been off the BBC in seconds flat. And here's one thing. This is a thing. I get sick of it, and I know a lot of my Jewish friends get sick of it as well. You've heard them, haven't you? Look, you know, I reserve the right to object to the way Israel behaves. I reserve the right to campaign against Israel. That doesn't mean I'm anti-Semitic. That doesn't mean I don't like Jewish people. Really? You absolutely sure, are you? Are you? Don't try that one. Don't try that one on me, and don't try that one. A friend of mine just says, anybody who ever says that, she's Jewish. She just says, she writes them off. Just because I object to Israel, I don't like what Israel, doesn't mean I don't like Jews. She always goes, yeah, it does.
Yeah. Well, it's always the same thing, isn't it? So they object to Israel and they say, I can do that, but they don't object to anything else. Just at the moment in Syria, all the Druze Muslims are being slaughtered. Yeah. Not a word about that, you know? And who's actually going to the rescue? Israel.
Yeah. My God, those amazing pictures in Damascus, wasn't it, yesterday? Anyway, listen, let's go to break because we need to talking about anti-Semitism. We're going to talk about the BBC when we come back. Stick around.
16 and 17-year-olds will be allowed to vote for the first time across the whole of the UK. This brings the whole country in line with Scottish and Welsh elections. We're going to let kids vote. Brilliant. It may well end up backfiring on this government. I think this is genuinely insane. We don't let kids buy cigarettes or booze, but, well, without their fake ID, obviously, but we're going to let them vote over who runs the country. This is properly and utterly insane.
Chief Constable. Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, let's talk about the BBC. Deborah Turnus is, she's called Chief Executive of News, basically head of news. She's the most important, powerful journalist in the state broadcaster. You probably saw this last night. We broke this story last night, actually. Here's Deborah addressing the staff in a sort of question and answer system session where she talks about Hamas. Have a look.
I think it's really important that we are clear that Abdullah's father was a Deputy Agriculture Minister and therefore, was a member of the Hamas-run government, which is different to being part of the military wing of Hamas. And I think externally, it's often simplified that he was in Hamas, and I think it's an important point of detail that we need to continually remind people of the difference and of that connection.
Well, Deborah, I wouldn't continually remind people of that important differences if I were you, because there isn't a difference, is there? Everyone in Hamas is the same. They are all proscribed terrorists. It doesn't matter if you're a government official or some thug with a machine gun. You are a Hamas member. Therefore, the entire organisation is proscribed. The head of news at the BBC doesn't bloody well know that. Unbelievable. Anyway, this ignoramus has just had a massive pay rise. Yes, her income, folks, is £431,000 a year. Let me know if you think she deserves that. 0344 499 1000. But it is breathtaking, isn't it, that?
Well, it's just watching that footage there, and if ever someone was just winging it and obviously didn't know what the hell they were talking about, it's her. I just imagine what the people listening to it were thinking, but probably they were agreeing with her because it's the BBC. I think the problem we've got here is that these people will do anything to pursue an agenda and bend the truth in such an egregious and stupid way, and it snaps.
Yeah. But she's not bending the truth.
No, she's not. It snaps. She's not bending the truth. She's telling lies.
Well, I don't even think she's not within herself telling lies. She doesn't know.
She doesn't know.
She doesn't know how Gaza is governed. She doesn't know that there is no difference between being a Hamas government official, like the one who was the father of the narrator and the star of that Gaza documentary that the BBC had to pull. There is no difference between him, he's the Deputy Agriculture Minister, if you want to know, and some thug with a bomb and a machine gun, walking the streets.
The problem is nobody... It seems to me that nobody within the institution questions any of this because they all want to believe the same thing. They all believe the same thing. They're all singing from the same hymn sheet. The really scary thing about this is that back in the day, the anti-Jewish neo-Nazis were skinheads, they were National Front, they were boot boys, they were on football terraces. Nobody took them seriously. It was the National Front and then the BNP, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, this kind of prejudice has this patina of sophistication, doesn't it? Even though it's obviously not sophisticated, it's just as stupid. But it's right within the institutions. Now, my history is 25 years in the university system, and I came across it all the time. Yeah. These idiots will construct any kind of ridiculous story, any kind of ridiculous argument, and you can puncture it. It's like saying the British Army has nothing to do with the government.
Yeah, exactly right. But anyway, she was on a rather handsome £414,000 a year, and has just been awarded a pay rise, so she's now on £431,000 a year. What is that? That's a £17,000 a year pay rise, or am I displaying my own ignorance here? If it's maths, you know, I've got an excuse. I'm an absolute innumerate idiot. I really am.
Alas,
but anyway, 431. She's gone up from £414,000 a year to £431,000 a year, and she doesn't know how Gaza is governed. She doesn't know anything about Hamas. She kind of thinks that, you know, the BBC's been getting a hard time because, you know, we never supported the terrorists with the guns. We just supported the ones who were in the government. They're the same, Deborah. They're the same. It's unbelievable.
You get an insight into this middle-class nonsense, don't you? I mean, if someone would have told me, again, a couple of years ago, if someone would have told me you'd have Glastonbury, you know, the most banal, the Pharaoh and Ball of all festivals, people chanting along and grinning and saying death, death to the IDF, it's because they've been indoctrinated.
The quinoa concept.
Yeah, anti-Semitic stupidity. And it is these ordinary people. You know, it's totally bizarre.
I had a great idea about Glastonbury. It's too late now, but perhaps we could do it next time.
Of course you were on the big stage.
I was on the kneecap. I was one of the stars of the show, you know. Pretty disgusting kneecap. So I was filmed before they went on. But I had an idea, too late for this year now, but the only good thing about Glastonbury is every annoying person in the country is there. So for 4 or 5 days, the rest of the country is almost inhabitable. So my idea is the next time there's at Glastonbury,
extend it for 2 months.
No, just don't lock them in and don't open the doors. Just just to keep them there. It's a good way to corral every idiot, every middle class death to the IDF idiot into Glastonbury. Don't let them out. Britain is thereby miraculously, brilliantly improved, don't you think?
Well, we save all the institutions, don't we? We save education, we save the civil service. It's amazing. I think we should do it tomorrow.
Absolutely. Any sign of Grant Shapps? Anyone seen him? No. Oh dear, where is he? Seriously, where is he? But to go back to that, by the way, we've only got a couple of minutes left, but Labour, you know, Keir Starmer's acting up. He's right. I mean, the Tories are the real villains in this story, but we've yet to really have an explanation as to why Labour clung on to it for a year. Why did they carry it on? You know, to get old Starmer getting very furious yesterday in the Commons. I don't want to let this Tory government got so many questions to answer. Well, mate, so do you.
Exactly, because I think their public discourse and privately what they think are two completely opposites. And I think he could never deal with backbenchers. He could never deal with the rest of the cabinet, who are absolutely open borders and all for flooding the country with immigrants, if he pushed back against this particular kind of thing. So I think it's all talk on the one hand, and then absolutely kowtowing to the absolute extremists in the party on the other.
Absolutely. Quickly, just before you go, after the news, we're going to be talking to a 17-year-old lad called Josh, who I would give the vote to in a heartbeat. I've spoken to him. He's a very clever, brilliant young kid. I'd give him the vote in a heartbeat, but most 16-year-olds, most 17-year-olds, I don't think so. I mean, you know, they're at school. They're living with their mum and dad. Until you pay taxes, how can you possibly take part in the democratic process?
Well, when you're 16 and 17, you've got no life experience. You're very susceptible to ridiculous extreme ideas, and this is potentially giving the vote to people who are not eligible to stand for Parliament, because you can't stand for Parliament until you're 18.
But they can vote for people.
But they can vote for people.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a list of things you're not allowed to. It's funny. So you can't get married until you're 18. So these new voters can't get married, can't drink booze, can't smoke, and not allowed to drive a car. My personal favourites, they're not allowed to buy lottery tickets or razor blades, but they can vote. What's going on? What's going on?
Oh.
Well, of course, it's Labour trying to manipulate the democratic process because they're so dunderhead thinkers that they think because dating back to Keir Starmer or youth, you know, mine as well, all young people were left wing. So he thinks this will get us loads of votes. I think they're going to catch a cold.
They really are, because the young people either love Corbyn or they love Farage. They certainly don't love Starmer.
A lot of young people now, teenagers, the kind of age group we're talking about, you know, they're what you might call right wing. They really are. They really are. They're not. It's not the same as it used to be. You know, with the, you know, when we were all revolutionaries when I was a kid, and then we grew up. You know, but anyway, we'll talk about that after the news. We're going to talk to a 17-year-old who, as I say, I would give the vote to, but most of them I don't think so. Great hour, Philip. Big thanks to Philip Kilsey, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, our Thursday man. He'll be back next week. Always a pleasure, mate. And as I say, stick around, because after the news we're going to be talking to a young man who has a lot to say about whether or not his age group should be given the vote. 03444991000. Back in a mo.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of tonight's Political Asylum. In just a little while, we're going to talk about London's parks. I know it's a bit London-centric, but I want to show you a very funny video about Sadiq Khan. You know, I think everybody around the country can hate Sadiq Khan, right? So hating Sadiq Khan is a national issue, I think. So you'll enjoy that, I think. We'll take your calls in half an hour. Let me know what you think. Should 16 and 17-year-olds be given the vote? 0344 499 1000. Are there more government super injunctions out there? Is this government, are governments keeping secrets from us using the courts? Because they kept the secret of this Afghani airlift scandalously secret for 2 years. 2 years. It's outrageous, folks. Are there any more out there, do you fear? 03444 499 1000. What do you think? about the fact that these Afghanis who came in, leapfrogged to the top of the housing queues, have been given welfare for life. We saved their lives, and now they're suing us for £1 billion. What do you make of that? 0344 499 1000. And why is that Deborah Turnis woman still the head of BBC News on 400 and... I've just lost it there. What's she on? She's on £431,000 a year. Why is she still there when she doesn't even know how Gaza is governed, doesn't have the faintest idea about Hamas? Why is she head of news for 431 grand a year? 0344499 1000. And towards the end of the hour, I'm going to talk about the Southport killer, Axel Rudakabana. I'm going to tell you about his extraordinary, bizarre life behind bars. It's no life at all. And you just wonder, why do we bother keeping people like him alive? You know, you can say, oh, they're not that death penalty debate again. But, you know, people who did do things like he did, you know, the money it's costing to guard this guy, he's now ranked as Britain's most dangerous prisoner because, don't forget, he attacked a prison guard recently with boiling water, and he's threatened to do it again. He's ranked as the most dangerous prisoner in Britain, and he's costing us a fortune. Just asking the question, is it worth keeping people like him alive, that little animal? 0344499 1000. So all that's still to come. But first, 16 and 17-year-olds will be given the vote at the next election. This is by order of the Labour Party, the Labour government. They think this will be good for them because young people are all left-wing, right? Wrong. Let's talk to... why bother talking to some boring old person? Why don't we talk to somebody from the age group in question? And a warm welcome. It's his first time on the show. He's an A-level politics student. Warm welcome to Joshua Pelling. Welcome, Josh.
Welcome, Kevin. Thank you ever so much for getting me on the show.
You're very welcome. Right, let's talk about this. Now, you know, you and I talked earlier. I'd give you the vote like a shot. But most 16 and 17-year-olds, I'm not so sure. You know a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds. Would you give all of them the vote?
I don't think I would, Kevin. I think it's a really complicated issue because on paper it seems that it's not the right decision, but I believe there can be some benefits from this. Because these people majority they're in formal education, they could be given be educated around the vote, around politics, so there's some benefits. But you're right, talking to Philip, I listened to your conversation earlier, people my age, we can't buy alcohol, buy fireworks, but we can have the vote. It doesn't seem right, but like I say, some benefits to be taken from this if used properly and people are educated.
Well, the other problem is, you know, I would say, I don't want to be disparaging about people of your age group. You know, when I was 16, you know, about 300 years ago, you know, I wouldn't have given me the vote. I didn't know anything about anything. But the main point about 16 and 17-year-olds, particularly 16-year-olds, you know, most of them are at school. They're living with their parents. They don't have jobs. They don't pay tax. Why should they be given a vote? I mean, you know, they're not contributing to society. They don't know about life. Until you pay taxes, until you're out there in the grown-up world, why on earth should you be given the vote?
You're right, Kevin. I agree. And Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister, said today that there are more people now joining the army. 16 to 18-year-olds. But a point I'd like to make is that these people can't do this without parental permission, you know, at that age, showing that if you're going to give people the vote, why not lower the other age requirements? It seems nonsensical.
It does, Josh, but you know, I ran through a list, as you say, the list goes on of the things you're not allowed to do when you're 16. I mean, they talk about 16-year-olds being able to join the forces if they have parental permission. The truth is that there's a minute number of kids actually do that with parental permission, and even if they do, when they join the Army or the Navy or the Air Force, there are a great many restrictions on what they're actually allowed to do. They have to wait until they're 18 until they'll be put on the front line or anything like that. So, you know, that's not really an argument to say, oh, they can join the army. You know, what else can't you do when you're 16? You can't get married. You know, they say, oh, you can do it with parental permission. But again, you can't get married until you're 18. You can't drink, of course, or not legally anyway. Same deal, minimum age 18. You can't smoke. That's probably a good thing. But, you know, that is an activity that is legally banned for 16-year-olds. You can't drive a car. You can now. You can when you're 17, but you can't when you're 16. But my personal two favourites, and I'm sure there are more. You said fireworks. That's a good one. My personal two favourites is people who can vote from now on will not be allowed to buy lottery tickets or razor blades.
Yeah.
This is madness, isn't it?
It is mad, but Ken, I think if you look at the other side, these people who are in school, and with the rise of social media, a lot of disinformation as well, it might be a good position to educate these people, although you're right, it does seem very young when they can't do all these other things. And I think one point I'd like to make, the Scottish referendum 2014, independent vote, they allowed 16 to 17-year-olds to vote. 85% of that age group turned out, just showing the impact. But then again, it's a referendum and they tend to have higher turnouts. But I believe that the right approach is to educate people my age, but not give them the vote.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like education's more important.
Damn straight. But, you know, again, I don't want to be, as I say, I don't want to be disparaging about young people, but when you're 16... and all due respect, 17, you've got a lot to learn about life. You've got a lot to learn. Now, here's the interesting thing, though, Josh, and this is what I really want to talk to you about. Keir Starmer is of an age, and so are most of his cabinet, where they think, they look back to their youths when they were your age. I can do this as well. And in those days, all kids were left-wing. They were revolutionaries. You know, we were all, you know, we're all up the workers, revolution, get rid of the fascists, and all this. All kids were left-wing in those days. So the reason Starmer has brought in votes, has allowed kids of 16 and 17 to be able to vote, is he thinks they're all left-wing and they'll vote Labour. I think he's in for a shock because you and I were talking earlier, you're not in Reform, you're not in the Tories, but you consider yourself to be a sort of centrist, right-of-centre, Tory-ish kind of a person. And a lot of guys and girls your age are the same, right?
Absolutely, and I think you're right. I think you will have a bit of a shock because a lot of people my age may not have any political affiliation at all. They won't turn out. So it can be seen, well, why they're giving the people the vote. But you're right. Some people my age, quite a lot of them might be left-wing, but with the rise of Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana's new potential party, that could split the vote on the left, such as the Greens as well. That's quite interesting. A lot of people talk about reform, and there's a lot of people supporting reform my age, but on the left, a lot of people starting to follow the Green Party as well. Yeah. So I don't think Keir Starmer did this today thinking that everyone's going to vote Labour, but I'm not too sure
I think
why.
I think he did. I think he did. Really, I think that's why he did it. But just tell me, so your circle of friends, people, your age group, as far as you're concerned, there's quite a few people your age who maybe support reform, but they're what we would call right-wing, right?
Absolutely, Kevin. They're not all left-wing. That's certainly the consensus, yeah.
And you make a very good point about Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn's new nascent party, that you reckon the kids who are left-wing might gravitate towards that, which won't be any good to Keir Starmer. But I think probably more worrying from Starmer's point of view is that quite a few kids will have been persuaded, shall we say, brainwashed by the climate change lobby, and they'll vote Green.
I think there'll be a broad range, and the left, I believe, this new party, just like what happened on the right, people of all ages, not just my age, of all ages, sort of fed up with the same old parties, these two parties. You're seeing a split to the left, split to the right. And I think one thing which we will see in the next general election is that this dissatisfaction with the status quo of politics will extend all the way down to 16 and 17-year-olds.
Yeah, indeed. And what do you think about that? I mean, you're at school, and I don't know what your school is like, but I perceive, and I know a lot of parents are worried, that teachers, a lot of teachers who quite often aren't the brightest, sharpest pins in the pack, are brainwashing kids about climate change and net zero. Do you think that's a problem? Do you think that so those kids who've been brainwashed by climate change obsessive teachers, they'll vote Green, won't they?
Yeah, to be honest, there might be a bit of that. From my personal experiences, I believe that my school and my peers who go to other schools, it's been quite a balanced approach.
Well,
but I
that's
think
great. That's good to hear. That's good.
Yeah, that's the importance of education, because I don't know from, I haven't heard any experiences from teachers, this brainwashing, but you see a lot of disinformation on social media, which people believe, because young people like me don't read newspapers anymore. They get their sources from information from, TikTok and other platforms. So I feel like schools where parents and children alike trust their teachers to educate them, that's the best place to give people more information. Because if we leave it to social media, they'll get brainwashed much more than they would in school. So I think schools from 16 and lower, because Kevin, very quick point, now 14-year-olds can register to vote. That's how low it's going.
They've registered a vote at 14.
Yeah. So it's important that education of politics is spread to these people. I do A-level politics, and I think it's a great course covering a whole range of subjects. But why not introduce a politics GCSE or put it on the curriculum lower down the school? Why leave it as an option as an A-level?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. If you went to let me ask you this, Josh. If you went to your teachers and you said, you know what, I love that, Nigel Farage, I'm definitely going to vote Reform and Brexit was brilliant, how would they react?
To be honest, I'm not sure how they'd react. I think they'd be quite open-minded. I think they're open to conversation.
Good.
And I think the great thing about, again, I can only talk about my experience, my school, they like to give the facts, and it's all very sort of, fact-based. Okay. And to be honest, schools, just like the workplace, I imagine, no personal experience in the workplace, should be open to all conversation but keep things professional. So I don't think there'd be any major qualms, but it's not really a conversation which is had too often, really.
Well, you obviously go to a good school. It's good to hear, but we do hear stories from other schools where perhaps the teachers aren't quite so open-minded and really don't like the idea of reform and Brexit and right-wing thinking, or indeed net zero scepticism.
That's why it's important to introduce a curriculum of all these things on it, I think, to sort of make the children aware lower down the school.
Yeah, but as I say, my basic point, and I think you agree with me, is
I agree.
Is you got to be paying tax. You've got to be in the kids are I mustn't say kids. People of 16 and 17. They're living with their parents. They're at school. They've never had a job. They don't pay tax. You've got to be doing that before you should have the right to vote for the government. You agree with that, yeah?
I agree. There might even be an argument of raising the vote to 21 when a lot of people finish when they finish their apprenticeships or finish their degrees a few years down the line for me. Then they sort of fully understand, because I don't fully understand how the tax system works, where my money is going. In that way. So when people are feeling the pinch a little bit more and seeing where their money's going, which I certainly have no understanding of that yet at all, that's when people be more conscious. And that's probably why there's a higher turnout for those people, because they're more aware and more concerned, and they feel it more. They've got more skin in the game, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm not an emotional man, Josh. I don't often cry, but when I get my pay packet and I look at the tax, how much tax I paid, I very often break down in floods of tears. Anyway, you got your tax life to look forward to, and it's nothing to look forward to, I'll tell you. Josh, great to speak to you. Great to speak to you. Come on again soon. That was Josh Pilling, A-level student there. He's on holiday in Tenerife, actually, so I hope he enjoys his time there. But seriously, folks, the points I was making, he's a 17-year-old bright kid. I give him the vote like that, but not all kids are that bright. And actually, even Josh, I'd think about it, because surely, you've got to be paying tax. You've got to be working. You've got to be in the adult world before you can vote. Giving school kids votes, living with their mum and dad, going to school, and they get to vote. Is it just me, or is that barking mad? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. The story we're going to do after the break, we're just going to do it for a laugh because it made me laugh. It's Sadiq Khan with his views on London's famous parks. It's a video that's been put together, probably, edited and all that, by the London Tory party in the London Assembly. But you'll get the point. It's just for a laugh, really, but it made me laugh. Have a look at it after the break. Stick around.
We do need to remind Deborah Turness, who's the head of BBC News, that actually the Hamas government is also a prescribed terrorist organisation in this country, in America and many of our allies. Does this surprise you that the head of BBC News doesn't know that Hamas as an entity is one big terrorist organisation?
Shocks me because it's very clear, but that explains why they haven't called them a terrorist organisation. And of course, you're using her logic. Hitler was only the head of the political wing of the Nazi Party.
And there you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, we've been keeping tabs on what's been going on in Epping, where they have this asylum seeker hotel, where one of the residents from Ethiopia has been charged with 3 separate sexual assaults that allegedly unfolded in 2 days of horror. He arrived here on June the 29th. Within 8 days, he was facing these charges. He denies the charges, but the very nature of the charges has produced a very febrile situation in Epping now. There were demonstrations all over the weekend. There's one going on right now. We showed you the gathering crowds earlier. What I can't show you now is what I've just seen. It is kicking off, folks, badly. There's a police van being attacked, people hurling bricks and stones at the cops. Just seen a guy literally jumping onto a big police van and pulling the windscreen. It is kicking off. It's getting bad. Now, the reason I'm not showing you that is for legal reasons, really, because there will be people in that video completely innocent. Their faces will be shown. So for legal reasons, I have to be careful here. But I'm telling you, there is big trouble kicking off in Epping. This is what we have feared. The powder keg there, at least, is beginning to erupt. It is a picture that could spread nationwide the way things have been going. So it's all happening in Epping, and not in a good way. It's what we were all terrified of. It's happening. We'll keep you posted, but as I say, you've got to be very careful about bringing you pictures. Right, let's move on to something rather more light-hearted. This is a story about Sadiq Khan. Now, Sadiq Khan is the Mayor of London. Every now and again he has to submit himself to the horrors of talking to the London Assembly. These are the other councillors that represent the other parties, indeed his own party as well. They all sort of sit around in a big circle and they ask him questions, and he's notoriously sort of offhand about it. He doesn't like, who the hell are you? You know, he sort of like treats them like the crap under his shoes or something. Anyway, one of the fears and worries about Sadiq Khan from particularly the Tory party in London is that he might build on London's parks. You know, we've got a housing problem. He doesn't really like the idea of middle-class parks, much prefer to put some social housing on there, put a few migrants in there. That's the kind of idea for Sadiq Khan. But you would think, wouldn't you, if he's sitting there in his big chair and there's this councillor called Andreas Giorgio. He's a Tory councillor, and he's saying, do you have any plans to build on Green Park? You'd think that Green Park, the big park right next to Buckingham Palace. Then he goes, you got any plans to build on Hyde Park? You think that the mayor might say, no, of course not, don't be ridiculous. But he doesn't say that. Now, this video may have been edited, but I think the gist of it is true. I just think it's very funny, so have a watch.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to build on Green Park?
So this is another example of members trying to bring up the Whitewebs Park through the back door, which they've tried to do for the last
Would you like to build on Green Park?
Months. I'm quite clear, as I've said on a number of occasions, that not all green belt is green and pleasant.
Okay, so Green Park's under threat. Would you like to build on Hyde Park?
I've also made clear that Metropolitan Open...
Right, so Hyde Park's gone. Would you like to build on Kew Gardens?
I suspect when practicing in front of the mirror this morning, it sounded great.
So, all right, so Green Park, Hyde Park, Kew Gardens are gone. Would you like to build on Groveland's Park?
I've had
another one gone.
Would you like to build on Brentford Park? This, I remember
another one gone. Would you like to build on Trent Park? Another one gone. Okay. Yes or no? It's really straightforward. We can start from the beginning. Green Park, yay or nay? Would you like to build on Hyde Park? Would you like to build on Kew Gardens?
Will you at least rule out building on London's existing nature-filled parks?
Is Trent Park safe? Green Park, Hyde Park, Kew Gardens are gone. Would you like to build on Groveland's Park? Would you like to build on Trent Park?
If so much of the green belt is horrible concreted land, then why is the mayor trying to build on places like Trent Country Park?
Would you like to build on Green Park? Would you like to build on Hyde Park? Would you like to build on Brentford Park?
Okay, that's obviously a political video made by the Tories. The star of the show is a guy called Alessandro Giorgio. He's one of the Tory party assembly members there. And so that's it, Green Park's gone, Hyde Park, there goes Hyde Park, there's Kew Gardens. I mean, my question about it is, why can't he just at least say, of course I'm not going to build on Hyde Park. Of course I'm not going to build on Green Park. But he doesn't say that. He just said, I'm quite clear that not all of the green belt is green and pleasant. Let's talk to the environment spokesperson for the City Hall Conservatives. He is Thomas Turrell. Hi, Thomas.
Hello.
Well, you were in that video, weren't you? I mean, why, as I just said, I mean, it's a very funny video, and that's why I thought we'd play it. But why can't he, when Alessandro's saying, well, do you want to build on Green Park or Hyde Park? Well, why can't he just say no?
So you can't say no because Alex Ledoux, my colleague who you referenced, he's done a lot of work. He's fighting really hard to save Trent Park in Enfield, where they're trying to build tens of thousands of new homes on this park. And Alex has questioned Sir Sadiq on this many times, and he will not say he's building on Trent Park, even though it's already in the public domain that he is. So he won't say how much Trent Park he wants to build on. So in this video, Alex was demonstrating very clearly the ludicrousy of the mayor's position of refusing to say which parks he's going to build on. And as you say, Alex was making that point excellently, which shows why the mayor. So if the mayor had said, "Oh yes, I'm not going to build on Hyde Park," then it would become, "Why won't you build? Why won't you say whether you're going to build on Trent Park or not?" But it's just a ludicrous position the mayor is taking. He has to be transparent with Londoners about which parks he's going to build on.
I've seen these sessions before, so when he submits himself to your scrutiny, you know, as other members of the London Assembly, he treats you, as I just said, like the crap under his shoes, doesn't he? I mean, it's like, oh, how dare you, little pipsqueaks, bother me. You know, he really is contemptuous of all people who've got questions of him. Do you find that to be a problem?
He definitely doesn't want to answer questions. And that's it. He doesn't like being scrutinised by this assembly. But in disrespecting us, he's only really just showing his contempt for the people who elect him and his contempt for Londoners, that he doesn't want to be transparent with them and doesn't want to be open about what his plans are.
Does he ever speak to you and Alex and other Tories and the other party members? Does he ever speak to you sort of away from the spotlight, away from these kind of scrutiny sessions? Do you have any discourse with him at all?
Yes, yeah, we bump into him in the corridor and whatnot, but I think it's... Yeah,
and what's he like when you do bump into him?
Not how he is in the Assembly.
Contemptuous?
Yeah, I think there's an element where it's all theatre for him, and he loves the theatre of it. So yeah, I think a lot of it is put on for playing to certain audiences.
Do you get any sense from him, being around him a lot more than people like me are, Londoners, most Londoners are? Do you get any sense from him that he's aware of the despair that millions of Londoners are feeling about the way he is running this city into the ground, I would say?
So I think when you look at his predecessors with Ken Livingstone and Boris Johnson, you can see people that really cared about London and cared about doing what's best for London. When you look to Andy Burnham in Greater Manchester, you see someone who loves his job and loves the city he represents, and there isn't that same energy coming from Sadiq Khan.
What do you think drives him? What is his driving principle? Because, you know, he keeps going on about clean air and, you know, ULEZ and so on and so forth, as if all of us who live in London, you know, that our abiding obsession is clean air. Look, I always say, since I've taken the decision to live in London, if I was worried about clean air, I wouldn't be living in a city. This seems to be the only thing that he's interested in. He doesn't seem to be very interested in the fact that people are getting killed on the streets, that people are getting stabbed and shot, and women don't feel safe. Why is it that he thinks that clean air is more important than women's safety on the streets?
So I think with all people in politics, I think just because we're from different political parties and whatnot, and I don't agree with the direction he's been taking the capital in. I do often think that we all are in politics to try and make where we represent better, and there is some crossover. But I do think I think with you mentioned ULEZ and clean air and whatnot. I think it comes down to the mayor just doesn't understand places like Outer London. So I represent Bexley and Bromley, and it's just quite clear that the mayor does not understand how Outer London how Outer London lives. So, for example, in my constituency, I have a place called Bigging Hill, Keston Village, Down Village. These are actual rural villages. They've got green fields around them. They have very limited bus services. None of them have a train station. So what happens is when you do things like ULEZ to make it harder for people to drive, you actually isolate people and you make it. And what he hasn't done is he hasn't done anything to improve public transport for these areas. He mentions the Superloop constantly. He says this was his answer to the unfairness of ULEZ. But no Superloop route touches the rural communities in my constituency. And I think what it comes down to, I don't think it's a conspiracy. I just don't think he understands. I think he understands all of the capital that he represents. And that is the great sense I get from my constituents, is that they don't feel that the Labour Party understands them.
Yeah, I don't think Sadiq Khan understands any of London. He doesn't understand the whole city. He's got it totally wrong. And since he's been in power, this city, the greatest city on the face of the planet, has plummeted. It's plummeted. It's a mess now. By the way, can I ask you what you think of Susan Hall, one of your colleagues, posted today on Instagram, the Transport for London, which of course Sadiq Khan runs. This is the sort of outfit that runs our tubes and our buses. 2,200 people who work at TfL earn £100,000 or more. That's grotesque, isn't it?
So yeah, executive pay at TfL under Sadiq Khan has absolutely ballooned. While we're seeing graffiti on art, while we're seeing graffiti on the tube get worse, while we're seeing fare evasion go unchallenged, while we're having policies like ULEZ imposed in outer London, while we're having our bus cuts, our bus services cut out of London. So I think the pay levels at TfL definitely don't reflect people's reality of TfL, and I think Transport for London has not been offering a great service for London in recent years. So the idea that executive pay is ballooned.
Say that again. Yeah. Hey, I have to use the Northern Line every day, yeah, so I know where you're coming from. I've got to say, Thomas, if I was a politician having to work around Sadiq Khan, I wouldn't maintain the calm dignity that you do, or indeed your colleagues. Really good to talk to you. Come on again soon. That was Thomas Turrell there. He's environment spokesman for the Tory party. Talking about, the Mayor of London refusing to say whether or not he'll brick over, concrete over, build on Green Park, Hyde Park and Kew Gardens. What a strange little man. What do you reckon of that? 0344 499 1000. Let's go to break. We'll take your calls after we come back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Still kicking off in Epping, as we were telling you earlier. We were filming, we showed you footage of what's going on in that North London, Essex, pretty town by the forest up there earlier. They were just gathering now. Last time we looked, it was about 5 minutes ago, it was full out war. Bricks, everything being thrown, police vans being attacked. It is kicking off, folks. We'll keep you posted. Right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Tricia in Brighton. Tricia, you want to talk about the voting age, and you've got you've had two 16-year-olds. What's your view? Should they be given the vote?
Hello, Kevin. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Yes, I have had two 16-year-olds in the past, and sadly one of them went down the wrong path with drug addiction.
Oh, dear.
She's fine now. My son, on the other hand, was a very, very A student, all the rest of it, and both of them are of the opinion that 16 is too young.
Yeah. What about you? Do you agree with them? Yeah.
I agree, because I saw both of my children, obviously my one child who was going through very bad times, and my other child. They don't know. They don't know.
Well,
what it's all about.
Of course, they don't pay tax. They're not working. They're going to school.
I was talking to my son actually just half an hour ago or so, and his mum, he said, even though he was an A student, he's very successful, he said, I wouldn't have known what to do.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I don't know about you, Tricia, but I can just about remember back to when I was 16, and I wouldn't have given me the vote in a month of Sundays. But, you know, we're giving votes.
I wouldn't have even known what it was all about.
Of course not. And I mean, we're giving the vote to children. That's what we're doing. These are children.
Children.
Yeah.
They are still. They're not allowed to do a whole arena of.
They can't buy fireworks. They're not allowed to play the lottery.
Probably my son, 20, 21. My daughter, she was probably in her middle 20s. Both now very balanced. Or hardworking.
Yeah, but they're now of an age where they fully deserve the vote.
Yeah.
The thing is, when they were 16, sorry to hear that one of them was having drug problems, but whether or not they're having drug problems, whether, you can be a brilliant A student, the most wonderful child who ever lived, I still don't think you deserve the vote, or you should be given the vote, because my kind of view, Tricia, I don't know what you think, but my kind of view is until you got a job and you pay tax, and in other words, when you're paying tax, you're essentially funding the government. Until you take part in that process, then you shouldn't have the vote.
No, and frankly, as I say, my daughter would have been, or I shouldn't say, one child would not have been capable, but probably would have gone for it just in order to be awkward.
Yeah, they go for it because they'll think it's a laugh and all that. And the other thing that worries me, Tricia, is young minds are very malleable. So they'll be attracted maybe to the Green Party, maybe to Jeremy Corbyn's new party, or maybe to Nigel Farage's party. But they're not reliable.
I can see that with my grandchildren.
Yeah.
How much they're now sort of 17, whatever.
Yeah.
And how much they are being, in my opinion, indoctrinated at school.
Yeah, into certainly net zero fanaticism, right? Climate change. I think teachers are brainwashing kids about climate change.
They absolutely are. And thankfully, I've got a very good relationship with them, and we have long discussions.
Yeah.
But, going back to my kids, as I say, the one was
One was a problem, the other one was good, but neither of them deserved the vote. I mean, I'm with you, Tricia. I've got to move on, but I take the point, and my best to you and to your kids. Thank you very much for a good call. Tricia in Brighton there. Let's go to Peter in Croydon, who wants to talk about the £431,000 a year head of news at the BBC. Peter, do you think Deborah Turnus is worth that amount of money? She doesn't know how Gaza is governed, doesn't understand the first thing about Hamas, but she gets 431 grand a year. Do you think she's worth it?
No, not at all. No.
Didn't think you would.
She's not worth £400 a year, you know. So, yeah, I've written to, I've emailed Lisa and Andy, and I said, look, you keep these Deborah Turnus, Davey and Shamir Shah in charge, and you'll never improve the BBC. I mean, you take, obviously we know about Davey, but Samir Shear, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was on Andrew Neil when he asked him, why don't the BBC acknowledge Hamas as terrorists? And he started laughing. I mean, that is a disgrace. And yeah, Deborah Turnus, I don't know how it works, but these reports from Gaza about what's happening at the Gaza health, the Gaza
food supplies, yeah.
Yeah, I mean
aid,
I mean, well, at least there's been at least 10 reports. There was one about where Israel made the mistake, and they've admitted it. But the other reports, I mean, it was all the same. It could be almost word for word, you know. And would Deborah Turnus have to sign those reports off?
Deborah Turnus is said to be one of the people who signed off on the Gaza documentary. And what worries me about her is how ignorant she is about Hamas and Gaza. She doesn't know how Gaza is governed, and she thinks there's some sort of civilian wing of Hamas that isn't prescribed, that isn't prohibited. Well, there isn't. They're all the same, but she didn't know that. She's the head of news at the BBC. She is in charge of all the journalism there. That's pretty worrying, isn't it?
Not very bright, is she?
Well, no, but which again begs the question, not very bright, doesn't understand about Gaza, doesn't know anything about Hamas, gets £431,000 a year, just had a pay rise, by the way, in order to run the BBC's journalistic operation. I mean, talk about the blind leading the blind.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, Peter. Well, I agree with you. She needs to go, but nobody ever gets fired from the BBC unless they're working class, unless they're Greg Wallace or John Turode. There you go. Thanks for a good call, Peter. Always a pleasure, mate. That's Peter in Croydon. Let's go to break now. When we come back, I'll tell you all about Axel Rudakabana, the monster who killed those poor little girls in Southport last year. I'll tell you about his life in Belmarsh Prison. It is bizarre. It is strange. My question is it necessary? I mean, why do we bother keeping people like him alive? I know it's a basic, possibly unsophisticated question, but it needs asking and it needs answering when you hear about the way that guy now spends his excuse for a life. We'll talk about that next. Stay where you are.
have a moral obligation to ensure that those who worked with British forces were protected. We have a moral obligation to ensure that as many of them as possible are brought to safety. This is a fraught and dangerous enterprise in which individual British soldiers put themselves at risk in order to help people come to this country. So in that respect, well, of course there are regrettable elements. The decisions taken both by the last government and...
How realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about, if we must, that awful Southport killer, Axel Rudakabana. He is now rated officially as Britain's most dangerous prisoner after making more threats to attack prison staff. He allegedly, he's being investigated for this, but he threw boiling hot water over a badly injured officer on May the 8th. I remember that was on the front page of The Sun. He's being investigated for this. He's 18 years old. He's deadly dangerous. He is only allowed to leave his cell when accompanied by 5 guards in full riot gear. And this only happens on very, very rare occasions. So in other words, he basically spends his entire life in his tiny cell, never allowed out. When he does come out, he's surrounded by 5 guards in full riot gear. He's been banned from computers. He can't go onto laptops or anything like that. And he's not even permitted to use the prison intranet system to order from the canteen or carry out educational courses. Not that I would ever expect him to do that. The only kind of course he wants to carry out is from an Al-Qaeda training manual, because he's a bit of a terrorist, doesn't he? Although the government says he's not, and they should never have investigated him. Should not charge him with terrorism. Well, why did he have an Al-Qaeda manual, and why did he have ricin poison in his house? Anyway, that's the kind of book he wants to read, a Al-Qaeda manual. So anyway, there he is, stuck in this cell, never allowed out, not really allowed to do anything. He's being held in Belmarsh Prison, down here near London. He's being held in Belmarsh Prison in the same secure unit as that Manchester bomb terrorist Hashem Abidi, who a few months back assaulted 3 officers at Franklin Prison with scalding cooking oil and a makeshift blade. So he too is held in this highly secure wing of Belmarsh Prison. My point about him, to an extent, mainly Rudakabana, when you think about this, it's costing us a damn fortune. 5 guards, he has to be round the clock. He's a dangerous, dangerous individual, awful little person, awful little monster. We could, it's barbaric to put him down. The death penalty is barbaric. Is it really? Is America really so wrong to retain at least the option in extreme cases of the death penalty? Shouldn't we have that? When you look at what Rudakabana did in that dance hall in Southport, I'm not going to go into the details, but these were little children. He stabbed them to death in a frenzy, and others who miraculously survived. And then we go, the death penalty is, a barbaric, and we can't have that. Well, I mean, really? Let's talk to the former head of National Counter-Terrorism and the Security Office, ex-police DCI. He is Chris Phillips. Chris, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Kevin.
Well, my point, my feeling on the death penalty is, I used to be a classic North London liberal. Oh, no, we can't have that. No. Eye for an eye is biblical and old-fashioned, and we shouldn't do it. It's medieval. But when I look at what Rudakabana did in that hall, you know, I start to think again. And then I learn what he's been like since he's been in prison. What is it now, a year or so? You know, he's attacked one officer, allegedly, I have to say that, he's being investigated, with boiling water. He's threatening to do it again and again and again. He's never allowed out of his cell unless surrounded by 5 prison guards in full riot gear, and he's only ever allowed out extremely rarely. He can't get on the computer, he's not allowed to order things from the canteen. I mean, he lives this bizarre existence. So we're going to the ends of the earth to keep him alive in what is really no kind of life at all. So is it really that bad to suggest maybe we'd be better off putting this monster, this animal, to death? Is the death penalty really that bad? What do you feel?
Well, I mean, the simple facts are that in the past the death penalty has been used, and used for people where the evidence was at least sketchy. There are cases, and Rudy Cabana's case is one of those, where it's irrefutable evidence that he's guilty. There's no doubt of his guilt. Everyone knows that he did this heinous act. And at the end of the day, what is the point in keeping him alive? Is it for our own benefits to say that we're not as bad as he is? Well, to be quite frank, the man has done such terrible damage and harm that I think he's forsaken his right to live. And unfortunately, you know, I know that this is never going to happen because we now live in such a liberal world, but we thought nothing actually after the Second World War, when we found right across Europe, when we found the Nazis guilty of their war crimes, they were put to death. And you know, I just think that there are cases, it's going to be very rare, where the evidence is so strong and the offences are so bad that you need to keep this option open.
It's really, you made an interesting point there, because this is always one of the objections, you know, not just from the liberal elite. It's an objection that many people have to the death penalty. They say, what if the conviction is a mistake? What if it is wrong? Just seen today, 2 guys who've been in jail for years have been exonerated. It was a wrongful conviction. I just saw them standing outside the High Court. So I get that, as you just pointed out. You know, if there's a scintilla of doubt, we've got to be careful. But surely we as you suggest, when you've got a case like Rudy Cabana, or people where 100%, no doubt about it, they committed these crimes, perhaps we shouldn't be squeamish about the ultimate punishment.
And it doesn't appear that he's going to get any better. I mean, you know, 30 years from now, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people wanting to have him released. But these offences were so bad, so terrible, so vicious, so nasty, that I think he's forsaken his chance and his right to life. And to be honest, if the police officers had gone in and seen him with a knife at one of the children's throats, then he would have been shot. And that may have been the best option.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, there's the other element to this, Chris, is as I was just explaining, this guy needs round-the-clock guards, 5 of them if he ever steps outside of his cell, heavy guards around his cell anyway, 5 riot-clad officers every time he does step out. And this costs a lot of money. The taxpayers are going to spend over the years. He's only 18 now, so chances are, what are we talking about? He could do another 60 years or something, couldn't he, easily? That's going to cost us a fortune, we taxpayers. That's another argument for maybe putting him out of our misery, isn't it?
Yeah, and what happens when he gets ill and he has to go into hospital? You know, it's not as easy to guard people when they're in hospital at the moment. I imagine he's in a cell, and he's left in the cell, and his food is introduced into the cell, so the officers don't have to have any contact with him. It is a vicious, nasty man, and we have to understand that there are some people that are so evil, so bad, that really it's just not... It's almost not fair to keep them alive, and I think he's in that situation. And the sad thing is, I think probably the vast majority of the public think the same. but we know for a fact that politicians are never going to vote this back in. So it's almost a waste of time us discussing it, Kevin. But it's certainly something. It's something that I think most of the public would agree with.
I've always said it's the strangest thing. I mean, it is well known. Politicians will tell you this isn't true, but it is true. Something like 60% of British people believe we should have the death penalty. But this is one of these areas where our body politic, our elites in Westminster, have decided that it's their job to protect us, the Neanderthal public, from our base instincts. We'll protect you from this. You can't have the death penalty. Well, I would say in a democracy, if the majority of people want this, they should have it.
Yeah, I think the trouble is with politicians, and yes, I mean, hopefully, you would imagine the average politician is more intelligent than the average man in the street. I'm not absolutely sure.
I don't know where you get that thought, Chris.
Well, I'm saying you would hope that was the case. Yeah. I'm not sure it is. But the simple situation is that politicians often are so far removed from the public that they supposedly serve that they don't really know what's going on. And I think, if you want to see the ideal example of that, is these boats that are coming across the channel. The public, the general public, and I'd say 90% of the public are absolutely fuming about it. And at some stage, someone's going to pay the price for that in Parliament.
Absolutely. More and more it's like these politicians, they just go their own way and they don't listen to us. It's becoming a real problem. Chris, great to talk to you, though. Thank you very much for your time. That's Chris Phillips, former head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Office. Now, when we come back after the 9 o'clock news, it's Kinsey Schofield time. She recorded my show, What Just Happened, earlier this afternoon, but I'm really thrilled she's coming back. I think she's coming into the studio, and we're going to talk about Harry and Meghan. You won't want to miss a second. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the final hour of tonight's Political Asylum. In about 25 minutes or so, I'm going to be taking your calls. 03444991000. Keeping you updated on that situation in Epping, where it's safe to say pretty much a riot has erupted. Serious scenes, bricks being thrown, police vans being attacked. Fury is in the air up there, and this is all due to the asylum seeker hotel in which was living this guy from Ethiopia who came here on the 29th of June and within 8 days had been charged with 3 sex offences, all of which he denies. It's important to stress that, but the local community is obviously up in arms, and there are a lot of demonstrations there over the weekend, but this one tonight, it is kicking off. It's bad, folks. So we'll keep you posted if there are any developments there, but they won't be good. You know, it's a really bad situation. Apart from that, get on the phone, let me know what you want to talk about. I think the Afghani airlift, still well worth a chat, isn't it, to say the least. Also, the BBC head of news, why is she earning £431,000 a year when she doesn't know anything about Hamas and doesn't know how Gaza is governed? 431 grand a year. Name of Deborah Turnus. Why? 03444991000. And of course, the big question today, should 16 and 17-year-olds be allowed to vote? Because they will be at the next election. Labour have just passed this. Part of their manifesto, to be fair. They did pledge they would do it. They've done it. But, you know, since 16-year-olds can't buy fireworks, can't buy razor blades, can't smoke, can't get married, and so on and so forth, can't drive, of course. Why are they allowed to vote? I mean, these are children. They're going to school. They don't pay tax. They haven't got a job. Are they really worth the vote? 03444991000. Now, let's get down to business, because for the next 30 minutes or so, I'm really pleased she's in the studio. It's the great Kinsey Schofield. Hi, Kins.
When I was 16 years old, I faked a job at Starbucks so that I could sneak off with my boyfriend at Arizona State University.
You pretended you had a job.
My parents showed up at Starbucks to pick me up one day. I wasn't there. I mean, it's still a running joke that my parents like, there's the Starbucks we tried to pick you up from. Yeah. I was an awful 16-year-old who was constantly crawling out the bedroom window. 16-year-olds should not vote. That's insane. Insane.
It is. Welcome to Britain. Right, let's talk about the Royals. Harry, at the moment, let's talk about today's story. He's over there, I think it's in Angola, isn't it? He's in Africa, following in his mother's footsteps.
Again.
Princess Diana, of course, the late, great Diana, you know, whose great cause célèbre was landmines in Africa. There's so many there. People get blown up. They're underneath the ground. Kids lose their legs. It's a terrible situation, don't get me wrong. Diana, he was often going out there, always being photographed. Great work. Here's to her. Now, guess what? Harry is over there now, following in his mum's footsteps, and looking kind of forlorn, to be honest with you. Apparently, we're told he definitely didn't want Meghan to be with him, and she's definitely not with him. He's on his own. Okay, it's a worthy cause, but what's the point of him being there exactly? And Kinsey, do you suspect, like cynical old me, that the reason he's there is he's reminding the world of his close connection to Diana, his mother, a money-spinning connection? This is what they have traded on. He has traded on his mother's memory ever since Megxit, ever since he went to America. Do you suspect the same as me?
Yes, but I think it's money. Yes, at the end of the day, it's all about money, because his lifestyle is incredibly expensive, especially with the security. However, I think this is more about reputation. And Diana has, in her death, sadly, she became a martyr. Mm-hmm. Americans specifically absolutely adore her. We've talked about this before, but leading up to her death, people were livid that she was running around with Dodi. They were livid that she was running around with the Fayeds. And her death turned her into this angelic character. I think that he is devastated over the reputation he has built for himself since stepping back as a working member of the British royal family, and he's latching on to his mother's memory and legacy, trying to regain any sort of popularity whatsoever. He has lived the high life as, behind the Queen, one of the most popular members of the British royal family, and now he dwells at the bottom next to Prince Andrew. That is hard.
That's true.
That is a really hard adjustment. That's hard to digest. So I imagine that this is more about rehabilitating his image. That's why we're seeing him distance himself from his wife, because together I think people are likely telling the two, you're incredibly toxic. People don't trust you. You're always complaining. And by I mean, this is just so lazy, this execution. We see Prince William go build entire shelters for the homeless, inspired by his mother's work, rallying around community leaders to try to create entire strategies around how they can eliminate the homeless crisis in certain areas. Harry just looks at his mom's schedule from 1996 and says, I'm just going to show up at this same thing she did that day and have photographers there to capture it. Be your own person. Expand the Invictus Games, the only solid thing that we are confident in that he does. I just think it looks lazy, and it's a desperate attempt. I know I use this phrase quite often, but it's a desperate attempt to hijack this woman's, the love we have for Princess Diana.
The Diana legacy adds up to cash for Harry and Meghan. But
especially when you're releasing a rosé on her birthday.
Yeah. You were telling me earlier, though, that Harry, you know, specifically didn't want Meghan on this trip to Africa. Talk about that. Why was that?
Well, let me look at that quote again, because remember how I said this quote out loud from the Daily Mail, and you like shivered in my presence. Harry didn't want Meghan there. I mean, it's a very cold quote coming from one of Harry's friends to the Daily Mail. Yes, they're going to say, "Oh, it's safety concerns. You went to Colombia." You know, Nigeria. You know, was it really safety concerns? Ultimately,
Ukraine.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Ultimately, what this is about is Harry realizing that he looks like a bitter, petty prince, and the same way we've seen Markle push him aside and chase Joy through TV shows where she makes fruit platters and loose fruit spread and bath salts.
In the colours of a rainbow.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
Hashtag blessed. I think that we're seeing him try to brand himself away from her as well.
It's interesting that. Let's talk a little bit about this peace deal, or these peace talks. All over the papers over the weekend here in Britain, and it wasn't supposed to be all over the front pages. It was extraordinary, wasn't it? So what we're talking about is this alleged rapprochement summit, a kind of reconciliation summit. Early days, no one was saying it was all but a fait accompli, early days, but it was a meeting between Harry and Meghan's chief PR, chief of staff, Meredith Maines, and their London PR, a bloke called Liam Maguire, and also the King's chief aide, his top courtier, a guy called Tobias Andre. So they all met at this club, this private members club. So the whole thing was supposed to be Meredith Maines flies in quietly, secretly.
None of us know who she is, but somehow somebody need to take a photo of this.
Well, look, it's supposed to be secret, and suddenly all over the front page of a newspaper in the Mail on Sunday, there's her getting out of the taxi after flying in from California. There are pictures there handily, really conveniently. There's her, Tobias from the Palace, and Liam Maguire sitting outside on a balcony near Green Park in central London, not too far, literally a stone's throw from King Charles's London home, Clarence House. There they are in the sunshine, easily photographed, which indeed they were. In other words, Kinsey, someone tipped off the paper, tipped off the press to every stage of this summit, of this meeting. Now, definitely tipped off, no doubt about that. The next question is, who was it? Now, it wasn't the King, you can rest assured of that, and it wouldn't have been Mr. Andre. It wouldn't have been any of the King's courtiers. They are famously discreet. So who do you think it might have been?
Well, Prince Harry has come out and said it's not, in true Shaggy form, it wasn't me. Although I don't believe him. I don't believe him in this scenario. I think that the only team that has anything to gain from this getting out was Harry and Meghan. But you know that the angle no one has discussed is how pathetic that a family needs, you know, premature talks before any sort of reunion.
Yeah, there is some, yeah.
That you have
people
to send
flying across the Atlantic.
Professionals on an airplane to discuss your pre-chat.
Yeah.
I mean, how bizarre
That is bizarre,
all of
isn't it?
this?
You haven't thought about that.
Grow
You're right.
up. All of you, grow up.
Yeah.
I mean...
So, but someone somewhere, and as you say, I agree with you, someone on the Sussex side of the fence tipped the press off. Now, let's put the case. I kind of agree with you. It was either Harry or Meghan or both of them. It may have had something to do with their PR chief, Meredith Maines. Whoever it was, it's from the Sussex side of the fence, I think we can presume. The idea, I'm assuming, was that if we tip off the press and we put it all over the front page of the papers that we're having peace talks, peace will then happen. Well, quite the reverse. What that did, what turning that allegedly secret meeting into a kind of gossip circus, what that did was ruin any chance of peace, right?
Well, and it's my understanding that it's made things difficult behind palace walls for the King and Prince William, who was blindsided by this meeting and didn't appreciate finding out about it at the same time you and I did in the Daily Mail. You know? So it's created a lot of animosity all over the place. The King feels betrayed. Because obviously he knew that this discussion was happening, and William obviously, I don't think he would have approved of such a meeting. I don't think he would have seen the value in it.
No, I don't think William wants any part of this.
Right. I don't think he would have seen the value in it, and I think he would have advised his father, unless this is personal and everything happens behind closed doors and you just want to have a conversation with your son. But I don't think William wants them anywhere near that family, truly. He recognizes that they're a liability. I think a couple of things could have happened alternatively. Meghan is notoriously a jealous individual. We've seen so many great headlines circulating over the last 2 weeks. Tom Bauer bringing up in his book, Revenge, about how Meghan asked her father to refuse to do the lighting for a school play when she wasn't able to star in the school play, and when he went ahead and did the lighting, she had a screaming match with him and moved out.
Wow.
She was so jealous that she wasn't in this play and that her dad helped light the set. And then, you know, she was ugly to a girlfriend in high school who secured a film role, or who secured a TV show role, because she was mad that it wasn't her.
It wasn't her.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen, you and I talked about her issues with alleged, reported issues with Lauren Sanchez. I think she was watching this beautiful buildup of the Wales family over the last week. Prince William, he raised over $1 million for some of his charities through a polo match. This is something we occasionally see Harry try to do in the States, not to the extent that Prince William can execute here. We saw Catherine multiple times, standing ovations at the world's most exciting tennis match, people screaming, "We love you, Kate," as she's walking across the court.
Meghan wouldn't have liked that.
Meghan would never get that. Meghan would never get that.
You're damn straight there.
And I think that maybe she would leak this story to distract from the positive press that the Wales family's had lately.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm wondering whether the actual leak was inspired by Meghan, who actually doesn't particularly like the idea of Harry getting back with his family, because we're hearing reports, of course, that Harry realises in his dimness, even he realises that any chance of rapprochement, of reconciliation with this estranged family will entail
excluding her.
Will entail not including Meghan. Meghan will be cut out of the action. Meghan will not like that. But to go back to the actual breaching of this secrecy, the leaking to the press, this will only heighten the King's suspicions. The King suspects that Harry cannot be trusted with any private details, that he will leak them, that he's not trustworthy around the kind of details that you don't want to be known. So this revealing of this summit in the papers, the King will now be even more untrusting of his son, won't he?
Well, I agree with you. I want to go back to something you just said, though. You talked about Meghan's hostility and her not wanting, her dreading Harry reuniting with his family because she knows she'd be excluded. Do you remember how livid she was when she was purposely excluded from the Sandringham summit? They said, we don't want her there. She's not allowed via Zoom. She's not allowed over cell phone because we don't trust that she won't secretly record us. So no, it's Harry only. And Meghan Markle is to be totally excluded from this conversation. She went on Netflix and complained about this family making decisions about her life without including her in them. So we know she's very sensitive about feeling rejected by this family and feeling excluded from this family. Of course she doesn't want a reunion for Prince Harry. But I can tell you, as somebody that shares the state with them, this is a lonely man who has very few friends. He's around a bunch of menopausal women who are friends with Meghan Markle that talk about their self-made empires. Truly, Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres has moved over here, but that's a former friend. This agent that owns a bookstore over there. Meghan's friend that owns the makeup line. What does Harry have in common with Gayle King, who's gone to space? I mean, I'm serious when I ask that question. Yeah. He's lonely. He misses his family. He misses his friends. He's been cut off from his friends too. And she loves her life because Harry has made all of her dreams come true. Meanwhile, he just has his children, his video games, and hopefully a bowl of you know what.
A few joints, yeah. I mean, so when we think about this, so there he is in Africa, retracing his mother's footsteps. We understand that he was desperate for Meghan not to be there. Meghan, very anxious about his potential plans to make peace with his family, not including her. The whole picture of this, and him actually saying, well, if I am to make peace, Meghan can't be a part of it. I mean, are we getting a picture here of a marriage that is not exactly a portrait of togetherness?
I mean, I don't think it's even. I don't think it's even in a lot of ways. People will slap me on the hand for using the word ambitious when it comes to Meghan Markle, but compared to Prince Harry, I think it's a fair word. I think that they are complete opposites when it comes to ambition and when it comes to even work ethic. I think she's willing to jump out of bed and do things that where Prince Harry would rather roll over and sleep for 5 more minutes. And what is he doing with his life? But also it's this desire and desperation in Meghan's case for attention. She wants paparazzi to take her photo. She wants attention on social media. She wants to utilize her children for attention on social media. Harry wants to put the kids away. He doesn't want us to know what they look like. He doesn't want us to see them on social media. He doesn't want to be on social media. He hates the paparazzi. He used to come out swinging at nightclubs in their direction. He doesn't want to be on reality TV. Meghan's got season 2 on the way. There are so many areas where there's conflict. And I also think that she probably spends a significant amount more than Prince Harry does.
Yeah.
I don't think that he has the material desires that we've seen that she has.
Sure. She's very materialistic.
Yeah, and so there are a number of things that I think outweigh the positives are the things that they have in common. What they do have in common is that both of their fathers are desperately ill, and they're not talking to either one of them. Why are we only pursuing a reconciliation with one? Because he's the king, because he is the most relevant, because he's the most important, and because they monetize off of their connection to this man. If you really are feeling empathy or compassion for a sick individual, then Meghan, you should pick up your phone and call Thomas Markle too.
Absolutely. And you know, Harry, we hear, has already accepted that if he is to make peace with his relatives here in the British royals here in Britain, she'll have to be no part of it. So Meghan won't be involved in that. But I would say now... Did
I tell you that I heard she's not coming to Invictus 2027?
Yeah, you did. No, you said that today, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, there are reports.
Well, look, because
you've said this 1,000 times. She will never step foot back in this country.
That's why it'll be, because it's in Britain. She won't. I don't think she'll ever come back. But you were saying earlier that what you're hearing is indeed she won't come to the Invictus Games in 27. She don't want to come here. She knows everybody doesn't like her much in this country, and the British royals cannot stand the sight of her. But even his slim chance, old Harry, of making a peace deal with his family without Meghan, I think have now been completely ruined by this revealing of the peace talks in the newspapers. But also, let's not forget that any peace deal, I think, is very, very unlikely to involve William. Now, the King Charles, is a famously soft-hearted guy. He hates conflict, you know, and he would like nothing more than to sort of bury the hatchet for everything to be cool again. That said, he doesn't trust Harry anymore, so that makes a problem with their relationship. That's why he doesn't talk to him. But the King maybe could be talked around. I tell you, he will never be talked around. He will never forgive him. Doesn't want to know about any talk of reconciliation. That's William and Kate. They will never forgive Harry and Meghan for what they've done.
Well, I mean, imagine being Catherine, the Princess of Wales, and something's wrong in your body. You're going to doctors. You've recognized that something is not right. They are doing tests on you. And as this is going on privately behind closed doors, you're trying to keep it a secret, not only from the public, but from your 3 children that you want to protect. Somebody has leaked to Omid Scobie that you were the royal racist, and he's included it in the Dutch version of Endgame. I mean, I know one of the things that I think we should acknowledge, we talk because we're very much in the moment, and we're talking about the current players, Prince William, Princess of Wales, the King, but our viewers that we love dearly, what they will not ever forgive these two for is their behavior in the last few weeks and months of the Queen's life. And Prince
the
Philip,
late Queen, of course.
and Prince Philip, basically on his deathbed, while they are recording the Oprah Winfrey interview, where they originally accused someone in the royal family of racism. I think that you're absolutely right. Prince William and Catherine are protecting themselves, and they're protecting their family, and Harry is a liability, but he also, the stress he causes them to be, I mean, there's scientific proof that that stress can make you sick. You know, they're keeping their distance to protect their peace. And I totally support that. And I know it makes me look very small, but I would be incredibly disappointed in the royal family if they did invite these two back. I would feel a sense of betrayal after defending them for so many years over this chaos. But really quickly, I want to tell you, Tom Bauer told me.
I saw Tom today.
Yeah, he was here with me.
Yeah, was that what it was?
Yeah. And, I had a date with Tom Bauer.
And Robert.
Yep, Rob Job. And so Tom Bauer told me today that in his book, about King Charles, Rebel King, that he realized that Charles can be incredibly ruthless and burn bridges and doesn't like.
Interesting.
So when I was saying, that I think the king has a soft heart, Bauer was like, okay, maybe because it's his son, but with anybody else, this guy will cut you off at the knees.
Yeah,
he has no patience for that.
And he certainly reached the point with Prince Harry. Well, we know he doesn't talk to him because he doesn't trust him anymore.
Yeah, Harry told us that. He doesn't take my calls.
He doesn't talk to me anymore. So we know that. But the point is, he's definitely a softer-hearted guy than William, and I don't say that in a detrimental way. Good for William. When you said that you don't want the royal family to forgive Harry and Meghan, you could be speaking for millions of British people. We don't want the royal family to forgive them either, because they don't deserve to be forgiven. If Harry cuts ties with Meghan, a process could perhaps begin, but it would involve a lot of apologising, and I don't think he's got that in his soul.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
I'd like just your opinion on if the king were to forgive Harry, what message does it send not only to working members of the royal family who have focused on duty and loyalty, what message does it send to the British public if he allows Harry and Meghan to come back into the fold when they have taken zero accountability for their bad behavior? I think that it's a sign of weakness, and that's not what you want from a leader.
I think you're exactly right, and as I say, millions of Brits feel the same. We're sad about Harry. We used to love him when he was a Jack the Lad about town, drinking and hanging out with the ladies. We thought he was great fun, and he seemed like a nice guy. He's turned into this miserable, paranoid lunatic, lashing out at a world that he clearly can't stand. He seems to be angry with everything and everybody, and of course, in other words, he has changed dramatically. So who do we blame for that? Oh, I just don't know. Oh, I know, it's Meghan Markle. Seriously, she's ruined that guy.
Mm-hmm. It's devastating to see, and I also feel like if the king were to give them an inch, it would justify their behavior, and they would continue down the same path. There has to be consequences for their actions.
I agree with you.
They keep their titles.
Yeah.
They get to, and I think that's insane. So the least that they can do is...
William will take him away. William will definitely take it away from the kids. William, I mean, I'm not saying this, in a bad way about William. I admire him for this. He's a strong willed soul, and he's not going to take this. He will not take the way his wife was treated by Meghan. He will not take what Harry has done to the royal family since he's been in America. He will not forgive. He doesn't want to forgive, and in that the British people back him, you back him, and I back him. Good for you, William. King Charles, Your Majesty, carry on not talking to him. Teach him a lesson. Kinsey, fantastic to see you. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a special session of Recollections May Vary, your brilliant podcast, right?
Yeah.
So I'll look forward to that. In the meantime, Kinsey Schofield in the studio, folks. Isn't that amazing? Next up, your calls and your texts and your WhatsApp voice notes. Much still to come. Stick around.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, time. The floor is open for you, my wonderful audience. We're going to take some phone calls. We're going to read some of your texts. We're going to play. We've got a lot of WhatsApp voice notes again, so let's play a couple before we go to the phones. Here's Judy on Afghanistan.
What I can't understand is we have 12,000 troops in Afghanistan, yet they've brought 24,000 people over that supposedly helped them. Now, what were the interpreters? Did each soldier have its two interpreters, one for day and one for night? I just can't understand the figures at all.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think a generous estimation is 4,000. We may have had 4,000 Afghanis helped us during the war, but I've heard that it may have been in the hundreds. Certainly wasn't 100,000, and yet we've let them all in. There's a load of chances have managed to get on this bandwagon from Afghanistan, now living in in social housing, on welfare for life. We're a bunch of suckers sometimes, but not us. Our politicians, be kind, don't put their lives at risk. All of them can come. No. Find out who actually helped us. Find out who actually should be airlifted here. And it's not 100,000, it's not 18,500, it's not 23,900. Is it? Is it? 03444991000. Good WhatsApp voice note from Judy there. Let's listen to one on the same topic from James.
Do you honestly believe that one geezer sent one email to cause all this, and then only two MPs covered it up at Courtland Junction, and no other MPs know? Everyone you ask, they don't know nothing about it. The geezer ain't been fired. Do you actually honestly believe that one person could cause this?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you know, it was the worst data breach in British history. Somebody pressed a button. We think it was a military person working with the Ministry of Defence, pressed a button and shared the details of this list. 100,000 people on this list. These were the people who had applied to come to Britain because they said they'd help Britain during the Afghanistan war. We are your friendly Afghanistan. 100,000 people did not help us during the Afghanistan war, so there is your problem. But in answer to your basic question, James, yeah. You know, these kind of mistakes can be made. But you know, also, I don't for a moment suggest that your cynicism is misplaced. I know where you're coming from. Right, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Joe in Shropshire. Hello, Joe. What would you like to say?
I'd just like to say, Kevin, I was 16. I left home at 16, and when I look back on it, I was didn't have much.
You didn't know much about life at that point, right?
Exactly, yeah. But I work with 17, 18-year-old kids now, and they don't know. They don't know if they're male, they're female. They don't know if they're...
Yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah. Absolutely, they don't know if they're at the zebra crossing, or they're homosexual, or they're heterosexual. How can you give them the vote? How can you give them the vote when they've got no life experience? I don't understand it.
Well, I mean, the reason Labour want to give them the vote is they think they're all left-wing and they'll vote Labour at the next election. They're trying to manipulate our democracy, our democratic system, our electoral system. That's what they're trying to do. But I think they might catch a bit of a cold because their assumption that all young people are left-wing and will vote Labour, I think, is misplaced. I think a lot of young people are pretty right-wing. But I think none of this, is really at the centre of what we should be debating. We should be debating whether or not we should give children the vote. These are kids. They're at school. They're living with their mum and dad.
You cannot give these kids the vote until when you look at it. You were given the vote at 18. When you look at it now, do you bring that forward to 24, 25? Because you've got no experience of paying bills.
No, of course, and you've got no experience of paying taxes.
Absolutely.
Look, the reason we get the vote, is essentially, of course, we're enfranchised at the age of 18 because then we're legally adults. But part and parcel of the system, kind of, is, most of us are supposed to have jobs. You go to work, you pay tax. The tax funds the government. So we pay for the government, and as such, we vote for the government. We have the right to choose the government because we're paying for it. 16-year-olds aren't paying for it.
No way. It's absolutely abominable. It's disgusting.
It really is, but it's Labour once again, Joe, and you say this shouldn't happen. I'm afraid it already has. They will be voting at the next election. I hope they all vote Reform just to teach Starmer a lesson. I think a surprising number will. Joe, you and me are so much on the same page here. Great call. Thank you very much, Joe in Shropshire. Let's take another call, shall we? Kevin in Basingstoke. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Kevin.
Hi.
Voter reform was on Labour's manifesto.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, true.
And also, I mean, you can vote if you've got Alzheimer's, or if you're mentally, or if you're 101, or you can also vote if you've been sent to prison and you've served your time for murder, rape, or paedophilia. Once you've served your time, you can actually vote.
Well, once you've served paid your debt to society and you've been released, then of course you should be able to vote.
Well,
Why not?
Also,
Why not?
Yeah, I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but you also, if you can also be a counsellor if you've murdered someone or if you're a paedophile.
Well, that's not really germane to this discussion, is it? Look, nobody said. Look, if you're not in prison and you're an adult, you're allowed to vote.
Yeah. So we, that's. I think if you think that's okay, then what's wrong with a 16-year-old voting?
Because they got no experience of life. They're not grown-ups. They're children. They're not paying tax. They're going to school. They live with their mum and dad. That's ridiculous.
Well, what about if they've got Alzheimer's or if they're mentally ill and they don't know what's going on around them? They can still vote.
Well, this is just ridiculous whataboutery, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not.
Why do you think it's good for 16-year-olds to be able to vote?
Well, because they've got their whole life ahead of them, and they should.
No, I don't care about that. Why do you think that children who live with their mum and dad, who go to school, who aren't allowed to get married, who aren't allowed to drive, who aren't allowed to smoke, who aren't allowed to buy razor blades, who aren't allowed to buy fireworks, why do you think they are allowed to vote? They should be allowed to vote. Why?
Well, they are allowed to have sex, and they are allowed to have a child themselves.
They're not allowed to get married, though. They're not allowed to get married.
You're old enough to go to work.
You're not allowed to go. You're not allowed to get married.
No, you're not allowed to get married, but you can work full time and pay.
Do you actually believe this? Do you actually believe this claptrap?
Yeah, of course. That's why I phoned in.
Honestly, Kev, you need help, mate. You really do.
That's why I always phone you in, Kev.
I know. I do quite like talking to you. I have no idea why.
I mean, you do give me a chance to put my point across, even though.
Of course, I let you get your point across. I'd like to say I respect your viewpoint, but I don't on this one. It's ridiculous.
Why don't you think a 16-year-old should vote?
But I just told you. Because there's children, they're at school, they don't pay tax. They don't work.
They can pay tax if they work.
Huh?
They can pay tax if they work.
Well, not many 16-year-olds are at work, are they? It's discouraged these days. They're supposed to wait until they're 18 and then they go to some rubbish university and study film studies or something.
They don't have to vote at 16, and I mean also
They don't have to vote. Well, none of us have to vote.
They can only vote. I mean, if they were 15 and we had an election, they couldn't vote. They have to wait another four.
Well, yeah, Kev, there is a cut-off point. You know, when you say 16-year-olds are allowed to vote, it doesn't mean 15-year-olds are allowed to vote, does it? There is a cut-off point.
But most 16-year-olds wouldn't be able to vote unless there was an election every year.
What?
There isn't. It's every 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah. What's your
point?
point?
So most 16-year-olds won't be able to vote at 16. They'd have to wait 5 years before...
Well, no, at the next election... At the next election in 4 years' time, the point is people who are 16 will be allowed to vote. You understand that?
Well, yeah, of course I understand.
Well, what's your point then?
But also, I mean, why? It's like the Brexit vote. Most people under 65, the majority voted to remain. And if we...
you think that? That's not true.
Yes, it is true. The majority of people under...
Well, yeah, look, it's not true, Kevin. You go off and read up about it. And by the way, I have a read up about pretty much everything. But keep on ringing, because I always enjoy a very good laugh at your ridiculous opinions. Take care now, Kev. Call me again, Kevin in Basingstoke. I always say to him, you're tuned into the wrong channel, mate. But he keeps phoning in. Let's go to break. More of your calls afterwards.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A couple of notes here. Here's one from Peter. Net zero sounds great until you factor in the cost. Why should children vote for what adults pay for? Exactly. David said votes for 16-year-olds is so open to being abused, especially if postal voting is allowed. That's what we should... If you really don't want the democratic system to be manipulated, ban postal voting. Imagine, David goes on, imagine your large household with a domineering father and a house full of kids eligible to vote. Well, guess what? Dad suddenly has multiple votes. Democracy is effectively dead. Yes, good point. Very good point. Here's a voice note. Katie on voting.
I cannot believe they're looking at the voting age again. And we're again talking about Rudy Cabana. He didn't get whole life order because he was a minor. Days, hours off his 18th birthday, yet we're going to let 16-year-olds vote.
Yeah. Well, Katie, very good points, absolutely. Except we're not looking at letting 16-year-old and 17-year-olds vote. They have got the vote as of the next election. Labour, whatever they want to do because of their vast majority, they can do, and they have done. We've got 16-year-olds voting now. They can't buy fireworks or razor blades, but they can vote. They can't get married, but they can vote. It's ridiculous. Quick voice note again. Tristan on voting.
But of course, the next thing, as he wants to keep changing the election rules, is proportional representation. is that going to be his next line of sight to keep power? Because that's all this is just to keep power. He's obsessed with power by any means possible. It's utterly, utterly disgraceful. It really, really, really is.
Yeah, it's sickening. This is blatant manipulation of democracy, you know, trying to swing it in Labour's favour. The only good thing is, with a bit of luck, he'll find out that a significant proportion of 16 and 17-year-olds are Reform voters. Hope that happens. It'll serve that idiot right. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your voice notes and your messages. Stick around.
This whole industry of left-wing human rights lawyers that are going to go to town on this, themselves earning a fortune, as we know, and now go for compensation on behalf of these Afghans that have come in, taken our houses, taken our benefits, taken our public services away from local people and dispersed into our communities, Mike. They've been housed in our MOD accommodation, they've been housed in these asylum hotels, and then they get dispersed into the community and then they're lost.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Got a good text here from Andy. It's he lives in Wandsworth Common, South London, nice part of the world. It's quite long, but I just like it. This is from Andy. Evening, Kev. You know what? I'm glad I'm in the latter years of my life now, because what I've seen in this country recently and how it's gone down the toilet, it disgusts me. A weak, loony left government, the Tory one before, full of liars and cheats, the migrant situation, extremism, the cost and taxation of everything, and now the Afghan scandal. I don't know this country anymore, Kev, and I've really seen enough. He then says, keep up the good work, you're the man. Well, thank you for that, Andy, and thank you for tuning in. You're the kind of listener and the viewer that I love. That's a really well put. I think that sums up how many people feel. Quick voice note, John, again on voting.
By all means, give people of 16 the vote. A lot of them are as intelligent as the over 50s or any other adults in the country. What I would do is disenfranchise all those who are on benefits and leave it so that those who are paying the piper call the tune.
Well, John, it's quite interesting, but you can't say just because some 16-year-olds are more intelligent than 15-year-olds, not the point. 50-year-olds, you know, they're usually contributing to society. They're working, they're paying tax, they're adults, they're living adult lives. 16-year-olds, no matter how intelligent they are children. They're living with their mum and dad. They're not paying tax. They're going to damn school. It's ridiculous. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Norrie in Glasgow. Hi, Norrie.
Good evening, Kev.
How you doing?
It's finally happened, pal, eh?
What's that?
16-year-olds.
Oh, yeah. Yes, 16-year-olds can now vote. It's good, isn't it?
Aye, they can. And what will happen, Kev, they'll never mind their parents. They'll sit in classrooms all together. Shouldn't have said that. And eventually they'll go back to their parents, and their parents will say, did you vote this party or that party? None of your business. It's going to cause utter chaos.
Yeah.
Kev, we you see the protests, it will increase.
Yeah, there's some bad ones going on right now, sort of North London, Essex here, a place called Epping.
It's awful, mate. It's awful.
Right now, and you're right. Nobody wants this. I hope it doesn't happen, but I think it's in the air. I think there's going to be trouble around the country. People have had enough generally. As for 16-year-olds, they're going to get the vote. God knows what it'll do. I just hope that lots of them vote Reform, so Starmer, who thinks he's swinging the vote his way, ends up with a bloody nose. Norrie, I've got to move on, but thank you. Excellent call. Thank you. Let's listen to a last voice note, shall we? This is Sandra on voting.
I knew Labour would try something to try to rig the next election so that it went their way. Looking ahead to 2029 and the state that this country will be in, many 16 to 17-year-olds will see their parents struggling and their grandparents struggling. So Starmer may regret changing the minimum age for voting.
I think you're right, Sandra. I think he assumes they'll all vote Labour, but I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good point. Apart from the fact I think a lot of kids these days are naturally quite right-wing. That's what attracts them. Nigel Farage, very popular with young people. But also, you're right, they'll see their parents struggling, you know, as this country goes downhill under this dreadful, dreadful incompetent government. And they'll think, well, I'm not going to vote for the government that's done this to my mum and dad. So hopefully that will inspire them not to vote Labour. Right, I've got a first-time caller waiting here. That is Dan in Essex. Hi, Dan.
Oh, hi, Kev. How you going? You well?
I'm good. Thanks for ringing. What would you like to say?
Basically, what it was, I had an apprenticeship, so I started work when I was 16, so I was paying taxes. But in regards to your point about 16-year-olds voting, back then, forgive me, I was young and naive. I used to smoke a bit of weed, loved a pair of Nike trainers. If the MPs had said, if you got a bag of weed and a pair of Nike trainers, all me and my friends would have voted for them, because that's all we cared about. It's for the absolute birds.
Vote for a guy.
For the absolute birds. What 16-year-olds think. They've got no real life experience. They don't know what's going on. There's nothing. Kev, come on, be real. You
see,
know
the thing is, though, Dan, you know, my age group, I remember a lot of 16-year-old kids did go out to work. So, but that doesn't happen very much now. But even then, I would say, well, do you really know much about life? I don't think so. But now, 16-year-olds, they don't go out to work. They're at school, if you're lucky. So they live with their mum and dads. I just don't think they know enough about life. They're not adults. They're children, therefore they shouldn't have the vote. Dan, the show's nearly over, but that was your first call. Don't make it your last. Next time you call, we'll talk for longer. That was excellent. Thank you. Dan in Essex. I should have said, coming into the studio soon is Ash Gould, who's going to tell you what Ash and Andre Walker have got lined up for your entertainment from 10 p.m. until 1 a.m. But he's already here.
I'm here, man. I'm here.
He's here.
See for yourself.
Flash Ash in his lovely jacket.
Thanks, man.
I've complimented you on that.
Well, you know,
it's nice.
You did, didn't you? Yeah, it's nice. Well, you know, what just happened, watch it when it comes in. You might see it again.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We recorded my show this afternoon, and Ash was on it, with that lovely jacket. Anyway, what you got?
We've got Ben Habib to start with, talking about Diane Abbott suspended after comments on racism, saying that Jewish people get different racism to other people. people.
Well, yes,
Bit
not
like
as
Whoopi-
bad. Not as bad.
Yeah, it's not as bad. It's like Whoopi Goldberg said that. Didn't she call it the Jewish Defence Force rather than the Israeli Defence Force?
No, that was someone else, wasn't
was it?
I'll remember it in a minute, but carry on.
The £7 billion cover-up. Andre's got an interesting take on this. He thinks they made it all up to bring in some... just bring in people that work and help them out and different work. Anyway,
hang on. What does he think again?
He says it's not a leak. It's been done. Well, it was, but it was done on purpose to get these people in. So we'll hear a bit more.
He
about
really
that.
thinks that, does he?
Yeah, he does. He does. So I was just chatting to him out there. We'll get to the bottom of it in a minute. Migrants are going to get apparently £250,000 each when they sue because we got to pay them for the privilege of them coming.
You
here.
mean the Afghanis?
The Afghans.
Well, the total is supposed to be £1 billion. We're going to have to pay them. And I'll tell you, I guarantee you, the government, Britain, will lose that case and we'll end up giving these people who we flew into Britain, saved their lives, and they repay our generosity by gratefully suing us for £1 billion. Thank you very much.
And thousands that never even worked for us.
Look, most of these people that are living here that said they were helping the British Army during the Afghanistan war, tell you what they are, liars.
Yeah, and we got Milton Danzuk and Simon Danzuk. Milton's 17 years old, so he's going to